What is happening out there, Roto Scouts baseball fans? Welcome back, gang, or welcome back to me. I was the one who took an unscheduled week off last week, a couple days the week before, too. It's been a minute. I think this is our first actual main slate show or any show during August. Missed you guys. Hopefully all's gone well. We had projections content. Everything was live all through all those days. Actually had some pretty successful days with some of the picks and some of the just calling out some of the rookie call-ups that have gone on after the trade deadline. Some interesting young players have come up, some players in new spots, obviously, that were really, really interesting. So we missed a few highlights over the last few days, but if you're hanging out in Discord, if you were using the projections at the website, you should have been on top of everything. But hopefully things have gone well for you. Hopefully everybody's coming off good weekends out there. Mostly uneventful for me. Just had some stuff going on last little bit over this weekend and so forth. But getting through and back in action today. Good to be here, too. So appreciate you guys. Appreciate everybody who's here in the chat already. Cujo's out there. Andy, Greg Biancone, Clint Wood's out there. A couple other folks I'm sure going to be trickling in. Probably a short show. A lightly attended show today after a few days off. Always takes a minute for people to catch back up to the fact that we're live again, but hopefully some people tune in. It's going to be I said short show, but it's not going to be a short show. I think you guys know that. Solid 10 gamer today. Good one to talk about as well. I think it's an interesting pitching board. Several starters making their second start for their new teams, like Tarek Skubal up at the top of the hill. But some really usable arms throughout about through this part of the board. Arguably Dobbins, but I don't like that spot against Philly. Same with Cameron. I don't really like that spot against the Dodgers. And then kind of a dip into the bargain bin with some pretty low-end bargain options. But it's a fairly robust, usable top end with some guys at fair prices. So I think it's an interesting enough pitching board. And I think we've got a fair amount to work with at the plate as well against some of those lower-end guys. You can see some totals popping. A 10-run game in that Sutter Field environment, Sutter home environment out in Sacramento, 5.60 implied total for the Rays. They're leading the slate. Athletics coming in at a mid-fours on the other side of that one. The D-backs over 5. Dodgers a couple pegs down the board from the very top spot in the stack rankings, but they're pulling a near 4.73 implied total. Not a bad spot. Some mid-4, upper-4 totals up toward the top of the board as well. So there's a lot to work with on this one around all these different spots. Home run pick of the day comes out of the Red Sox. They're looking like a really good spot in that first game, 4.73 implied total there. Craig Biancone here said, we want the full 3 hours. 350, probably not going to run 3 hours, but I'm sure it'll end up being 2+ before we're out of here. Everything at the site is updated through just the beginning of the show. I just now pulled down a couple confirmed lineups that came in, so we'll get those up on the site after the show. Runs board was updated a little while ago, maybe a couple slight changes in here before the projections update after the show. We'll get the run totals updated just in case anything changes dramatically. But it's going to be a good one to talk through. Actually, let me grab the stacks board. I've been doing this pre-show last few weeks, but I forgot to do it. Also, scrolling across the bottom of your screen, if you're new here, rotoscouts.com is the website, and details for the pitching picks contest. I'll pull those up in just a sec as I drop the stacks board in here. We'll renew that. I don't think anybody's hit one yet. We only run it 2, maybe 3 days. I hit one that came off the board the other day. I have to go back and check, but at most anybody has one so far. So we're just barely underway. The pitching picks contest, you can win yourself a free month of content at Roto Scouts as we're owning a football. That'll have even more value added to it because it does include baseball and football, and as hockey starts up at the end of September, depending on when you start that month, and that's your choice, you can run into a lot of content. For the pitching picks contest, come back after the show, leave a comment on the video. You have to pick the pitcher, and I'm going to take one guy off the board. You can't use the guy I'm going to take off the board, and it's going to be the big obvious one today. That's Tarek Skubal's coming off the board today. But among all the other starters, you need to pick the guy who's going to put up a quality start, which is 6 innings of 3 earned runs or fewer, plus 8 or more strikeouts for tonight. So some good candidates for that today. I think should be some interesting picks out there, and probably a few hits. This is an attainable one. It's a lot more probability to it, I think, and some better angles than maybe just, some scattershot home run picks. Home run picks contest was a lot of fun, but I think this one will be good too. So dive on in on that. Win yourself a free month. That is today's stacks board. So as you can see, the Rays looking really strong up at the top going up against Jacob Lopez. But like I talked about a few times when we've seen Lopez in spots, particularly in these home starts recently where the Vegas total and things just naturally inflate good teams in that ballpark, he is good. He's better than his numbers have been through the season. He's been on a decent stretch. When we talked about this in this exact situation the last time around, he went out and had a very successful night and shut down the opposing team. I forget who it was. We'll talk about it when I pull up the game log. But that would be a slight word of caution with the Rays there. That said, the environment's great. That is a productive top end of the Rays lineup. They have that top-heavy issue that we always talk about with that team, but very, very usable and showing value marks on both sides as well. The Astros kind of stand out against that Vegas total. There's a lot of just this is awfully, awfully tight through these Vegas totals. They pop a little bit. They're also pulling the number 1 home run ranking going up against Blade Tidwell, who's kind of scuffling his way through. I think the Diamondbacks are really interesting. They're second by Vegas total. They pull up a little bit better on FanDuel, where they're 4th overall by value. They slip a little bit by points per dollar, but they're super usable going up against Gabriel Hughes. 12th by home runs, just because, again, that's another top-heavy-ish kind of a team. The stars up at the top drive a lot. Some of the obvious squads like the Braves, the Phillies, the Red Sox, the Dodgers through the middle there. Athletics benefiting from that home park. They're going up against Freddie Peralta, who unfair 2 first starts for Freddie after scuffling his way with the Mets and then getting himself traded out of town to a much better situation for him, hopefully in Tampa Bay. The first start last week was at Coors Field, and now he has to go pitch in Sutter. So it's not going to be a pretty start. It was ugly the other day at Coors. Probably going to be ugly today for Freddie going up against the Athletics. And I think they're interesting at that 5th and 4th overall value mark. Freddie, if he gets any kind of form, though, we know what the talent looks like. So it's not a guarantee, not a lock spot, but an interesting value mark. The noteworthy part there, when we think of the Athletics, and particularly in that ballpark, we think about a lot of home run upside, a lot of power, only coming up 15th in the home run model today with some missing pieces for that lineup. So something to keep in mind just when you think, you're not thinking about the Athletics just in a vacuum of what they were earlier in the season. Orioles, interesting spot going up against their former teammate Dean Kramer, pulling strong value marks on both sites. That is a good Orioles lineup. Sneaky Tyler O'Neill option in the middle of the lineup. He's played in, I think, like 6 straight. So actually getting some opportunity, monster power bat. But really interested in those value marks on the O's against a gettable Dean Kramer. The Cards also pulling up a little bit for value. 3rd by home runs going up against Andrew Painter, who's been mostly a disaster. So again, through here, it's a lot of just, these teams are good. We know who they are. But interesting spots right there. A couple interesting spots up toward the top of the board, I think, that we can maybe, let's talk about matching together. Some Astros, Diamondbacks, maybe some Braves down with like some Orioles, maybe some Cards. Less so the Mets, maybe the Twins, just because they really stand out for DraftKings value at 2nd, but they're really knocked down the board at 20th for home runs against Trevor Rogers. And then you get into the ugly part. The Rockies were pulling a little bit of projection upside and a little bit of home run potential. It's Michael Soroka, but he's probably only going 4 and change. He only got stretched out into the mid-50s as far as pitch count in his rehab. He's coming back from a pulled muscle in his ass. So that presumably impacts pitching motion to a degree in the return to form. So it's not a spot where I would say, it's not an arm injury, that would be an impactful thing. So I don't expect Soroka to complete more than, say, 5 as a ceiling. The Angels put a little bit of value, but Mackenzie Gore's good. I'm not really looking to target him. Maybe you could pick off a little home run upside around the big right-handed bats in that lineup, though. Casey Mize is interesting. Reed Detmer, Sonny Gray, Hayden Wisniewski, Logan Henderson, and, of course, Derek Skubal having their big impact on all of these teams down toward the bottom of the board. Make sure you jump into that pitching contest. Comment after the show. I'm taking Tarek Skubal off the board. Pick a quality start plus 8 or more strikeouts. First to 5 wins, by the way. You got to use the same YouTube handle every single day. Got to pick a pitcher from this slate. This is the only action in town today. All of today's games are on the slate. And I think that was it. Win yourself a free month. Also scrolling across the bottom of your screen, anytime you want for right now, at least running into the beginning of football season. Promo code TRYME, all one word, capital T, capital M, gets your free first week on a weekly. Get behind the paywall, check it out, use the projections for a week, see how you like them, see how you like the content, give it a test drive. That gets you access to everything that hits the website. Right now, it's baseball only. It's mostly main slates. Have been picking off a lot of the side slates, but football is creeping up on me awfully fast, and I got to get my act together, getting some preseason content up for you guys. Red Sox, Blue Jays, 8.5 run total. Again, the Sox really interesting looking in that matchup. I like that total. I like some home run upside going up against Jameson Taillon. Taillon, mostly a mess this season, 5.96 ERA. A 4.75 xFIP is obviously better, but he's always been a middle-of-the-board type pitcher with a little bit of upside on a good day, and he's been a lot less than that. So that surging, ridiculous, probably cheating somehow Red Sox team, yes, I said it, their numbers have been insane. I was talking about it with some friends yesterday. Several teams over the last, from the beginning of June through yesterday were greatly defying their xWOBA. And the Red Sox were among them. And it was mostly teams you would expect. The Sox, the Rockies, the Cubbies. And through those summer months, you see it was 26 out of 30 teams, at least to some small degree, were defying their xWOBAs. But those teams were standouts by multiple standard deviations across the full active roster, just 3% probability. So for one of those teams out of 30 to do it for a 2-month stretch, sure. For all three of them, plus the Tigers were also in that range. It was really interesting offensive upside, but some strong overperformance. As we've discussed throughout the season, though, the Red Sox are constructed as a team that largely can go on to defy xWOBA to a degree. They've got some contact-oriented hitters. They've got some speed. The monster obviously helps with that in their home games. But I'm always a little bit reluctant to really fully get on board because there's a lot of overperformance going on with that Red Sox team. So I do continue to think in the grand scheme of things, at some point that does go pop. But right now, 4.73 implied total against totally gettable Jameson Taillon, they look terrific today. 3.86 implied total for that just scuffling Blue Jays team. The only thing they bring to the plate really is that low strikeout rate. Could be a little bit of an impact for Sonny Gray's absolute ceiling, but he's been pretty terrific throughout the season, so easy go-to spot on the mound. Christian Scott going for the Mets against the Braves. Braves have Bryce Elder on the mound. Elder continuing to overperform expectations through the year, 3.69 ERA against a 4.17 xFIP. Moderate strikeout rate, but usually pretty good for depth, 6-7 inning starts. Christian Scott has found some solid strikeout upside this season. 92 Ks and only 74 and a third. Nice standout performance there. He's also pitched to a 3.15 ERA, 3.74 xFIP. So he's looking strong there. The Braves are pulling a 4.65 implied total on some premium contact upside against him in their home park, but would use Scott in that situation. Would consider some shots with Elder, certainly suppressing the Mets enough at a sub-4 implied total, and they've mostly been a mess. Trevor Rogers is taking a fair amount of the power out of the lineup for the Twins. They're coming in a 4.22 implied total, loosely usable. On the other side, it's Dean Kremer, again, going up against his former squad in the Orioles here. 4.38 implied total for Baltimore, definitely showing some interesting upside through that lineup that we'll talk about in more detail in a minute. Painter against the Cards. Like the look of the Cards. Hopefully, again, sneaky through that middle of the board kind of a location we were looking at them. Philly's a little bit more obvious going up against Hunter Dobbins. Dobbins not pitching poorly in his outings, though. 2 earned runs over 6 1/3 against the Yanks last time out. Just struck out 4, walked 3, allowed 2 home runs. So it was clunky, but somewhat effective. Put up a quality start before that against the Cubs. 4 earned runs on 7 hits over 5 1/3. Struck out 4. 6 innings of shutout ball against the Angels. 6 hits, 5 strikeouts to start before that one. So again, some effectiveness, but a gettable enough spot for that strong Phillies lineup with a very solid total and some power. Rangers and the Angels, Mackenzie Gore against Reed Detmers, like both those lefties on the mound. That's a toss-up, I got to say. Both pitchers finding strikeouts, both pitchers capable of working deep into starts. Detmers only went 4 in his most recent outing. That was against the Orioles. 3 earned runs on 4 hits, struck out 5, walked 1, 2 home runs allowed. Kind of a clunky outing. He also had that weird thing through the middle of the week. He was a big part of the trade deadline discussions. There was a report midday that he had gotten traded, and then that turned out to be false. So maybe just some hey, you're not going to make your scheduled start and didn't do prep. I don't know this. I'm just speculating. Just pitchers are weird. Maybe it screwed up his week a little bit. Typically, he's better than that for depth, but he has been a little bit shorter of start in his last, let's say, since the end of June. Pitching a little bit lighter, but I think they were kind of managing the workload because they didn't know if they were going to need to deal him at the deadline. The Rays and the A's, we talked about that. That's bats on both sides. I don't want Freddie Peralta. I don't really want Jacob Lopez, even though either one of those guys could defy expectation at very low ownership in that ballpark. Across 150 lineups, I'm not ruling them out. If I'm building 1, if I'm building 5, I don't really need those guys. I'm looking at bats on both sides. Diamondbacks, interesting 5+ total going up against Gabriel Hughes. And then again, Michael Soroka should be good for when he's in there, but we're probably looking at a ceiling of 5 innings. That said, the Rockies coming in at just a mid-3s implied total don't look all that appealing. Logan Henderson been mostly tremendous on the mound. He's facing a gettable Padres lineup. Comes in at a 3.44 implied total, pushing him up toward the top of the board. On the other side, Casey Mize, second start for the Pods. Probably going to go better than the first one did. He faced the D-backs 3 1/3, 8 earned runs on 9 hits, 1 strikeout, 3 walks, and a total meltdown. Not what they acquired him for, but he's significantly better than that. That said, tough enough spot against that Brewers team, but Vegas total strongly favors pitching in that game. Hayden Wesneski is definitely usable against the Giants. Sub-4 implied total for them puts him on the board. Back-to-back, fairly effective starts, just 4 strikeouts, 2 walks in each, but 3 earned runs over 5 2/3 against the Angels, 2 earned runs on 4 hits against the Blue Jays over 6. Not bad. Similar kind of a spot here matchups-wise. I like the upside there. And then the Astros, 4.62 implied total with some power showing against Tidwell. Definitely sign me up for some Astros shares. And then we round out the night with Noah Cameron against Tarek Skubal. Skubal, class of the pitching board. Cameron, I don't want to go to him here against the Dodgers, but it wouldn't shock if he held the Dodgers to between 2 and 5 runs over his innings. He's also pitched very effectively lately. 3 straight starts of at least 7 innings. Last time out, 8 against the Twins. 1 earned run on 3 hits, struck out 9. 7 Ks, 1 hitter over 8 innings against the same Twins team in a game in Minnesota, the start before that one. And then at Detroit, 7 innings of shutout ball, 2 hits, 8 Ks in that one, walked 3. So he's been outstanding over his last 3. He had given up 12 earned runs in 2 starts in 12 innings over the 2 starts prior to that against the Orioles and the Padres. So take it for what it's worth. He's facing the Dodgers tonight. Not exactly a great target. 4.74 implied total for Los Angeles. Don't mind their bats against, but again, they knocked down a little bit on that stacked board. They were 6th on FanDuel, 7th on DraftKings, and don't really bounce off points all that great, but they are at the 3rd highest Vegas total. But again, there's a lot of collision of very similar. You're talking about minor differences there. Getting over to the pitching board, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you get a chance. Appreciate everybody who's here hanging out. Joker just bailed out. He was over here hanging out that whole time. Uncle Botcher's here. Just popping in to say welcome back. There, you didn't go anywhere. Afternoon, not the same without TM's breakdown. Best in the biz. Have a great Monday. You have a great Monday too if you're still out there, pal. Appreciate you saying so. Good to be back. Definitely missed doing shows last week when I was just a little out of sorts. But yeah, we're back in it. Stephen Lubitz, that's silly. You sound like Fox News DFS. What are we talking about? What did I say? Anyway, Skubal. Again, going up against a super gettable Royals team. 10-7 on both sides. Don't mind it at all. Dominant projection. Dominant starter. Second start for Los Angeles. This is what they acquired him for. Should absolutely kill it. Oh, the cheating. Yeah. No, look, they've been dramatically overperforming over the course of 2 months with that lineup that they've got. There's a couple bats that we talk about all the time that we like in Willie Abreu and Wilson Contreras in the middle of that lineup, and then just a lot of mix and match pieces that have all simultaneously found success. Do I actually think they're cheating? No, I think they're just overperforming and nice confluence of circumstances there that will eventually go bust. But we've seen things before. The Astros with the trash can, so on and so forth. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, but do I think that's what's actually going on? No. Better case if Cora was still there, yeah. Logan Henderson following up Skubal for 1,000 less on FanDuel, slightly higher priced at 10-2 on the DraftKings slate, but right there, gettable Padres team on the other side. They've been playing better ball in the last month and change or 2 months. Good boy, buddy. Go lie down. He's back. But Henderson's been pretty terrific. So I like that spot a lot. Love the pricing on Reed Detmers. Gettable enough Rangers team. 88-87 does not match his talent. We've talked about him and how good he actually is throughout the season. I am a little bit concerned about the just slightly fewer innings that he's pitched, but I don't think it's a thing. I think it was just kind of being managed again because they wanted to just maintain the health of the asset going into the deadline. Casey Mize against the Brewers. Talented guy, 82-9,000. I like the FanDuel price a lot better than I like the DraftKings price. Problematic matchup against the Brewers. It's a great run creation engine of a team. They've got some power through the middle skill. They've got fantastic on base skills, but Mai's good enough to tear his way through it. Much better bargain, though, on FanDuel. Sonny Gray, I skipped over. Great option on either side against the Blue Jays. Just the one thing, again, low strikeout team, basically across the board. So just know that you're running him into that could clip a little bit of his wings on ceiling-wise as compared to the Tarek Skubals of the world. Mackenzie Gore, totally usable, 92-85 against a gettable Angels team. Going the other direction, I already talked about Hayden Wesniewski. Been pitching fairly well over those couple starts, 81-71, particularly on DK at that price. That is an SP2 asset that is probably going to get a little popular getting paired through all these guys. So just know that you're going to run into that. What I would probably do there is maybe you take Skubal, Henderson, Sonny off the board, and you start letting some combinations of Detmers, Mize, Gore, Wesniewski, Christian Scott, maybe Trevor Rogers off altogether, Bryce Elder as well maybe, and just do that thing we've talked about where you take just a couple of the premium pieces for a few runs of your lineup building process out of the mix. And today that's really just the top two guys. And just start letting some of those lower-owned, lesser combinations fall together. That'll allow you to get to some mid type combinations, and it'll allow more combinations of these guys with this mid-board value. Because I don't think there's a strong bargain bin today. And I think that these guys right in here, in that little pocket, Wesniewski and Scott, are going to get crazy popular in combinations with Skubal and Henderson. So just as a different way to do it. And then you put those guys back in and you do, the majority of your builds with everybody. Rogers usable against the Twins. Elder usable against the Mets with maybe a little bit of upside even. That has just been a low-end Mets lineup for the most part. Dobbins, just don't like targeting that Philly team, but at 68 on DraftKings, I do think he's part of the bargain bin conversation over there, and it's probably the same thing with Cameron, particularly given that recent form. At 91 on FanDuel, you can see the bananas price difference between the two sites and how they're viewing Noah Cameron in that matchup. He's a definite option for the money on DraftKings. On FanDuel, there are so many other ways to go for that price range that why would you want to use Noah Cameron against the Dodgers? Even at no ownership, it really is thin. Tidwell, pretty difficult to see it. 6,055. He does slightly outpace some of the other guys, but it's really marginal, and he has not found success. He's going up against that Astros lineup with the best hitter in baseball in the middle of it and some threatening other options. I don't like that spot. If I'm going down that part of the board, dicey as it may be, Freddie's an option at 67. Kramer's an option at 62. Lopez at 55 is maybe even an option, even with the Rays leading the slate, because again, he's talented and he could defy expectations, even in that ballpark. Last time we talked about this was against Boston in this ballpark on July 29th. I think the last day we did a show, or maybe it was in Discord. He went 5 1/3 that day. The Red Sox were leading the world in everything. 5 1/3, gave up 7 hits, not great, but struck out 8, walked 2, allowed a home run. Okay. That was the 1 earned run, 2 runs total. Over 5 1/3. That's a great start when he comes in at 5,500. And the Rays have a incredibly threatening hitter for a lefty in Junior Caminero in the middle of that lineup. Top heavy, excellent couple hitters up top, but it gets a lot softer and a lot easier for a guy like Jacob Lopez through the middle of that lineup and down toward the bottom. Would not surprise at all if Jacob Lopez paid off that cheap DraftKings price. So I'm probably going here at 55 instead of there at 5, even with that slight projection difference. I think there's more reality to Jacob Lopez. But it's an interesting pitching board. Again, there's depth through like there, and then it kind of really falls off into problematic territory the rest of the way. Soroka not going to pitch deep enough into that game. That is a good spot. Those are not good prices for the probably 5-inning ceiling we're getting. Nobody else all that interesting down the bottom of the board. Let's hit the old lineup button here, see what's come in. See if any news is broken too. Always got to keep an eye on that. It's been a lot of action recently. Devin Williams to the IL. Lineups. Don't look like any changes. Tim Anderson announced his retirement, by the way. Paul Sewald designated for assignment by the D-backs. I was saying it to my friends in the text message just before the show. Of all the crazy things over the last few years that have been like, I can't believe that was as recent as it was, or I can't believe that was as long ago as it was. And everybody, from what I understand, everybody pretty much feels this way. But like, time has just gotten really mashed up over the last few years. The fact that Jose Ramirez knocking out Tim Anderson was only 3 years ago blows my mind. It was the third anniversary just the other day. I would have said like 2018, 2017. That was 3 years. That was just, Tim Anderson's been gone for, it seemed like forever. Wild to me that was only 3 years ago. Anyway, let's get into this slate, gang. Stephen Leibowitz saying Gray has some outlier strikeout games, including 10 versus Toronto. I didn't spot that he had struck out 10 against Toronto, but that's definitely a nice indicator. But ultimately, we're just talking about a talented strikeout pitcher over the course of his career. So not surprising that he would have some big games. Levin at Colorado is another good one. I don't see the 10 against Toronto. Was that this year? I see 4 and 3. 3 on the 25th and 4 on the 18th. Those are the only 2 starts against Toronto. It's neither here nor there. He's got, again, solid strikeout pitcher, 106 Ks and 119 2/3. 21.9% strikeout rate overall for the season, a 10.1% swinging. If we look back in time, though, just last year, 26.7% on 12.1% swinging. In the year before that, 30.3 on 5.8. 30.3 with a 5.8% walk on a 13.4% swinging. So we are seeing a later career decline in some ways for Sonny, but he's been pitching very effectively overall, a 2.78 ERA, 3.60 xFIP, 3.83 Sierra. So whether or not he finds the strikeouts, the depth is very real. The upshot for a quality start is very real. 6 innings of shutout ball, 3 hits against the White Sox last time out, 8 Ks, 2 walks. Had a couple clunkers prior to that one, including against this Blue Jays team on the 25th, gave up 5 earned runs on 10 hits, struck out just 3. That's the downside start against this Blue Jays team, where they just base hit you to death, find some luck on balls in play. They didn't hit a home run that day. They rarely do that, but they can be pesky. Oh, excuse me. They did hit a home run that day. I was looking at a line above. Against the Athletics, at the Athletics, he did not allow a home run, but he did give up 4 earned runs in that start. That was 2 starts back, 5 Ks, 2 walks. Prior to that, he had not given up more than 3 earned runs since April 14th, when he gave up 5 against the Twins. And he had only given up 3 earned runs 3 times. Every other start was 1 or fewer. So it's been pretty terrific. Say you get to a 2.78 ERA for the season. 3.60 xFIP is probably the more real number. That's the territory we've always seen Sonny pitch in, that mid-3s to upper 3s type territory. But good starter against a gettable sub-4 implied total here for the Blue Jays, 92, 10, 1, one of the top options on the board. Taillon, just a target for Red Sox bats. I see no reason to go here. 5.96 ERA, a full run better by xFIP and Sierra, but still approaching 5 is not what we want. 20.8% strikeout. He is inducing an 11.4% swinging strike rate, but the trade-off between the possibility that he finds a few additional Ks against all that premium contact that he's allowed this season, an 18.5-degree average launch angle, leading to a 15.2% barrel rate on 39.9% hard hits, 89.3 miles an hour of exit velo, leading to a just completely ridiculous, unsustainably bad 7.51% home run rate allowed. Home runs are wonky. We talk about it all the time. But when you're allowing this much premium contact, that much confluence of convergence of hard hit ball, premium exit velocity on a significant launch angle, leading to all those barrels, it just equals home runs. Last year, 4.62. The year before, 3.11. Year before that, 4.12. 4 is usually our threshold for problems. So 2 of the last 3 seasons, he was already problematic and getting worse last year. And this season, it's just, we're almost double problematic. So monster opportunity for some Red Sox power. Only 2 guys above the magic number, even with all that in there. And that's the downside of these Red Sox. It's what I was referring to. This team lacks premium power upside. This team lacks significant bats. They've just been massively overperforming. I'll prove it to you. That's a collective 9-man, 317 xwOBA. 320 is league average. So across the 9-man lineup today, their xwOBA is below average. Their actual, what they've performed to, is 328. So, I mean, even that is not exactly significant. It's an okay team that is winning ball games. But I like the upside today going up against this pitcher. Home run pick of the day comes from the heart of this lineup. It's Willy Abreu, 5,000, 3,400. One of our guys around here from the last few years, 20 home runs, despite being on the Red Sox. Another 20 home run season, despite being on the Red Sox. One of our guys, I mean, you would expect him to have hit 20 home runs. 12.9% barrel. He's found the upside again, 43.3% hard hit, and just getting opportunity throughout the year and paying off the Sox for having given it to him. A 114 WRC plus, one of the actually very good hitters on this team. Wilson Contreras is the other guy we really want. 13.59 leads the team in the home run model. I didn't pick him. I picked him for the pick from the team, but Willier's the overall pick of the day. Both those guys, 23 home runs, a monster season, over 439 chances this season for Contreras. 14.3% barrel rate also leads this squad. And then we're just talking about mix and match guys the rest of the way. I have a healthy respect for Masataka Yoshida being a low strikeout, put the ball in play, hit it sharply, collect line drive upside, collect on base upside. He's probably my next man in a vacuum, but I don't know that I love occupying outfield with that player at just medium grade pricing. If I'm going to this team, particularly on FanDuel, I'll probably start picking off some of the middle infielders that are just in good spots with all this multi-position upside. It's less appealing on DraftKings where they're mostly relegated to just one position. So again, it doesn't bounce all that well off of putting things together on DK. It's a lot more user-friendly on FanDuel to get to the Red Sox. But I don't know that I go to Yoshida all that frequently because, again, I'd probably be looking to get another big home run hitting type outfield bat in the mix. And he falls in after the guys are going to be clearing the bases. He's more a table resetter for the guys that follow. The guys that follow being Caleb Durbin, a slap hitter who has been defying xwOBA all season, but probably will continue to do so. 289 xwOBA against his 322 actual. So again, I would expect that across a full season, a player like him with some speed, with the ability to just direct contact and to play doubles off the wall in Fenway, should defy xwOBA, at least to a degree. And this is a reasonable amount for him to be defying it by. Standard deviation and a half or so. But even in doing that, he's only at a 322. He's basically average. 102 WRC plus. He has definitely clawed together a much stronger second half. 11 home runs, 14 stolen bases. But he's a mix and match level low strikeout. He's Ernie Clement. Right? If you look on the other side, he's not in the lineup today, but that's who Caleb Durbin is. Not much more. Jaron Duran is a better player than that. Hits the ball harder than that. 16 home runs, 17 stolen bases. Definitely very real upside for Jaron Duran to just turn it back on again at some point. It's been a disaster of a season, a 267 WOBA, a 297 xWOBA, 63 WRC plus. We've seen multiple seasons of extreme talent out of Jaron Duran. He's one of their better players. So he'd be a higher priority, probably even at a higher price in a worse spot in the lineup than Yoshida, even with his underperformance. Just expect more big fantasy days from him. 7.4 in the home run model reflects that as well. Up at the top of the lineup, Ceddanne Rafaela for 46. That's a problematic price, and he only slots into the outfield on DraftKings. It's a problematic price because we know that this is a little bit of an illusion. That performance, 284, 324, 463. 15 homers, 16 steals. The run scoring, the ribbies are all fairly real. He's done that before. He's been a counting stats guy throughout his career. But the quality and the sustained quality is an illusion. 342 weighted on base, 288 xWOBA. That's significant. He does, again, have speed, but he's never been consistent like this ever before. This is a problematic spot positionally and price-wise, where it's a little bit offset. 33 is not a great price for that player, but it's payable, and he has the second base eligibility to get him through positionally. I like him better than Nick Sogard at the top of the lineup, who's just there to get on base, set the table for the other guys, and he's doing that 364 on base over his 90 plate appearances, 324 weighted on base against the 300 xwOBA, 103 WRC plus, but he's just a light hitting table setter. Look at the barrel rate for the team. The collective average barrel rate is just 6.9%. Their collective hard hit rate is 35.6%. Again, this team does nothing that we're actually looking for except find success and score runs somehow. Down toward the bottom, Anthony Siegler, Connor Wong, mix and match guys. Siegler over 150 has found moderate success, 96 WRC plus, a little below average. The weighted on base numbers are a little bit below average, but here and there he's got some usability at cheap prices at second base. And Wong in previous seasons has found some interesting upside. He's getting on base at a 333 clip this year, 3 homers, 3 steals. He's been okay to mix in here and there. More interesting on DraftKings at 26 where you need the position. Not really looking to target Sonny Gray with Blue Jays bats, but again, if they just put bat on ball and sequence and find a bunch of singles and light hitting success, limit strikeouts, they could have their day. They're not off the board, but they're not appealing. If you're going that direction, Nathan Lukes, table setter with a 323 on base, only okay over 300 plate appearances, another light hitting kind of a guy, but part of that low strikeout equation with this team. Brett Bateman in the lineup today, 25% strikeout over his 16 plate appearances in the show so far. Looking like a mix and match piece, but it's at least an interesting spot in the lineup, and he's very cheap. So let's pull him up real quick. Three home runs, 20 stolen bases, over 359 plate appearances in the minors this season, but was slashing 311, 429, 416. So I think we can fairly look at him as another table setting type guy, low strikeout, hefty walk rate at every stop through the minors, but very limited for power, stolen base, run creation type of a player. So fits right in with what the Blue Jays are doing, but they've already got that. They need to bring in some guys who do different things. Vladdy Guerrero hit his 7th home run of the season the other day, which would be great if he had only made like 130 plate appearances, but he's made 466. Problematic year for Vladdy, 261, 339, 359 on 98 WRC plus. Dramatically underperforming his xwOBA is the one thing you could say, but that xwOBA is not based on the premium contact that he used to have. Look how significantly down those contact numbers are. So Vladdy has really been going through it all year, and there's no reason to really have faith right now. 4,000, 2,900, he's at least very, very cheap. Still very low strikeout, double-digit walk rate. Part of the upside equation for the Blue Jays any given slate where they're going to succeed, but there's no real individual draw from Vladdy, unfortunately, at this point. George Springer, also kind of a mess of a year, 234, 317, 396, a dozen home runs, 8 stolen bases. Best power bat on this team's lurking down here with 24 homers and 475 chances. Kaz Akamoto. He's got real power, 3,800 at first base or third base on DraftKings. Nice, cheap price for a guy with a 12.5% barrel, 43.8% hard hits. But Sonny Gray doesn't really give up power. 2.48% home run this year on a sub 10 degree average launch, just 6.4% barrels. So you're not really power hunting with this team. Akamoto, if you're going to them, sure, he can be in your lineups. Would probably be advisable to do so, but he's also their biggest strikeout target, 31.2%. Odds are Sonny's going to sit him down a few times. Josh Smith, cheap mix and match infielder, always has been. Good counting stats from time to time, but less than as far as an overall player. Brandon Valenzuela put some interesting bat on ball in limited sense, 8 home runs and 215 chances with nothing else to speak about throughout his slash line. In the middle of the lineup, the two lefties, Jesus Sanchez and Andres Jimenez, probably the key guys if this team's going to succeed, and if you're going to succeed with this team for DFS, I think both those guys have to have good days for you. 8 home runs apiece so far in limited action for Sanchez, in and out of the lineup, over 255 chances, but that's a good hitter. That's a kid who's always been able to hit the ball very hard and consistently and effectively. Moderate strikeout against just average walk rates, but finds success for hitting for average because of the hard hit balls, and he's very cheap at 2,700 on both sides in the outfield. So that's a key piece. 4.77 is more reflective of Sonny's ability to limit home runs than his ability to maybe hit one against a righty. And then Andres Jimenez, much more of a light-hitting slap hitter, but 8 homers, 15 steals, and probably not going to be that highly owned at shortstop at a cheap price. From that spot in the lineup, that lefty bat, I think, is, again, a key part of building with this team if you're going to make the probably misguided decision to go there. Sonny Gray, Red Sox bats, Blue Jays bats, Jameson Taillon, but really nothing from the Toronto side. Tall Tale, what's going on? Stephen Lee Boots was looking at the ground ball column in that Sonny Gray game. Yeah, look, again, Sonny's tremendous, and I think he's a good option today. The one thing that the Blue Jays bring to bear is that low strikeout rate and just putting soft contact in play. They find the right spot on the field, that can lead to 10 hit days like it did in that game. New York Mets, 394 implied total going up against N, overperforming Bryce Elder. Let's see if we got this Mets lineup in. Elder sub 20% strikeout, not all that interesting. 8.9% swinging. There's a lot of contact available for the Mets. Their lineup did come down. Pitching to a 3.69 ERA, but a 4.17 xFIP, 4.38 SIERA. That's more who Bryce Elder is. He is capable of working deep into a start, though. 126 and 2/3 over 22 starts. Just a 6% barrel allowed, manageable 13.5 degree average launch. There is some premium contact, though. When the ball's just kind of sitting there on a contact-friendly tee where you're not really swinging, you're missing, you can generate some bat speed and you can make good contact again. So a problematic 90-mile-an-hour average exit velocity, just 40.4% of hard hits, just a little bit over our threshold and at our threshold, but two problematic contact numbers leading to a 3.59% home run rate allowed that speaks to a little bit of upside for the Frankie Lindors, and no Lou Bob in the lineup today. Thought he was going to be back. But the Frankie Lindors, the maybe AJ Ewings, Carson Bench, Jared Young, some of the lefty power upside, maybe you can pick off. But the Mets aren't looking all that strong here. Elder, I would say, probably much more likely to just coast through to this 12 to 15 and change, mid-teens type number, 25 to 30 points on FanDuel at a ceiling. Not a big-time ceiling pitcher. Quality start may be in play, given that sub 4 implied total, given his ability to put up 6 innings. He's gone at least 6 in 3 of his last 4. He's gone at least 6. Hit a stretch of shorter starts where he went only 4 innings in 3 of 6 starts, but the other 3 across those were 6+. So just an odd mashup of depth there, but typically is good for 6 at least. So I don't mind his odds for a quality start, but I don't like that 8,700 price on FanDuel because it doesn't come with a lot of strikeout potential. So you're talking about just like $8,700 investment to lock in a 25 to 30 point range with some downside. Not great. 76 on DraftKings is a lot more user-friendly. Christian Scott at 74 is an asset on DraftKings. 84, same thing on FanDuel. Striking out 28.8. He's got a little bit of a walk issue at 10%, but inducing an 11.7% swinging strike rate. 3.15 ERA with a very realistic and good 3.75 xFIP, 3.66 SIERA. Kid's been dynamite. 18.81 strikeout minus walk. If he can cut those walks slightly, and he is a fair control command pitcher on his way up through the minors, he could push that up to around 20% ratio there, rate there, and be in that ace caliber range that we're talking about. And if that's the case, that's a very nice price to find them. It's a threatening Braves lineup. 4.65 implied total speaks to their upside. A couple guys drawing in above the magic number for home run upside. Ronald Acuna sliding in below the magic number, but we know what his power looks like. Michael Harris, Ozzie Albies, Austin Riley, who's put together some success in the last month and a half or so. Definitely not a safe spot to be Christian Scott. But my hope would be that would knock the ownership down somewhat and make him a little bit more appealing from a DFS perspective. Probably not, given what we talked about with the value range on DraftKings, where pretty much everybody's going to be living with these two guys for those mid-board value types that fit together with these guys. Probably a lot of popularity with those guys. Maybe you get him through at lighter ownership on FanDuel at 84. But again, probably not, even in the threatening spot. If you're going to Mets bats against Elder, I was about to say that might be the more appealing side, but that's probably not true. There's more thunder in the Braves lineup. Scott hasn't given up much in terms of power, just a 2.19% home run rate, and inducing weak and medium contact. In fact, not just limiting hard hit. 33.9% is spectacular. 87.3 miles an hour of exit velo is great. 6.3% barrel, but it doesn't come because of a lack of fly balls. That would be the one thing that a very homer-friendly team could make the difference on. That extra couple of feet on the significant fly ball trajectory on average could lead to some home run downside. But it hasn't really burnt him so far in his 16 starts. So I would lean toward the Braves for probably that reason. But looking at the Mets, affordable team up and down. A.J. Ewing has been useful in that leadoff role, 334 on base, 15 stolen bases, got a little pop in the bat, over 320 plate appearances, a 106 WRC plus on the season, 7 home runs, but mostly a mix and match outfielder. Plenty of potential for him to succeed with Elder allowing him to put bat on ball like the rest of this team, but they're just a mid-board option today at best. Frankie Lindor at 45.32, nice value for his talent at shortstop, 10 home runs in limited action, 270 plate appearances, sub 20% strikeout, double-digit walk, making interesting contact with that 49.5% hard hit rate, 9.1% barrels, 108 WRC plus, a better xWOBA than his actual so far this season. So in a lot of ways, Frankie Lindor is present on this slate, maybe more of a appealing, just cheap star caliber shortstop as a one-off or in short stacks going up against a very gettable pitcher. That's somebody to keep in mind, actually, as you build. Taking a discount on a player like that gives you home run upside, gives you some stolen base upside, a lot of hard hit balls against a pitcher who allows a fair amount of hard hit balls. Bo Bichette at 4,000 at 2,800, nice and cheap, 263, 307, 378, an okay year slash line wise, but 91 WRC plus, a 301 weighted on base against a 319 xWOBA. Limited for hard hit rate over the entire course of the season so far. It's really been greatly diminished. It looked like for a stretch he was going to really put it back together for a while there, and somewhat it did elevate the numbers, but overall pretty bad, pretty limited. Do still like the idea of a cheap option at third base with the talent we've seen from him in years past, but mix and match piece in this spot. Carson Bench, a little bit of power in the cleanup role, 13 home runs, 18 stolen bases in a very nice year, 332 on base, 109 WRC plus. Kid's just good. Jared Young hits the ball very hard from the left side, 3,000, 2,500, nice and cheap. Flexibility on FanDuel into the outfield also makes him interesting because you don't have to take another big-time first base option out. Don't necessarily have to use util to get him in. So I like the upside for little outfield. You can play him at first if the Mets are your primary stack because they don't have another go-to first base requirement. But I'm thinking in terms of putting him in, say you game stack this one, you're going to want Matt Olson at first base, not Jared Young. But you would want Young into the lineup. 7 home runs in 223 plate appearances, 336 on base. He's been a good run creator with a 116 WRC plus, and he's remained very cheap for a guy with a 49.4% hard hit rate who strikes out under 20% of the time against Bryce Elder. Marcus Semien at best a mix and match guy. Brett Beatty does hit the ball fairly hard, but not consistently so, and had a much better year last year than he's had this year. 214, 283, 321. It's problematic. 71 WRC plus. Woody Polanco's got some talent, but it's pretty much abandoned him over 127 plate appearances this year. Any given slate upside for sure from what we've seen from him in years past, though, including just last year. And Frankie Alvarez, tons of barrel rate, 16.9% on the season. It's led to 13 home runs, an adequate slash line with a great 342 on base from a cheap catcher. 3,400, that's not a bad option. If you're going on DK, what you probably want to do, if you're building out the full Met stack, I would grab Alvarez for the power upside, but also the on-base skills as a wraparound guy from the bottom. Nice cheap way to fill catcher there. And then just top slice those two. You could argue for Bichette, but I kind of like the idea of Benj. And then in that build, I'm perfectly fine with going to Jared Young for cheap at first base if you're going to 5-man the Mets that way. That's a 38-40 average, 19-2 total for the 5-man. If you were going to the Mets in a pretty bad spot, or bad's not fair. Sub 4 implied total, but Elder's more gettable than that. I think that's an interesting way to build with them. And that's a cheap enough price that I don't mind using him at first base. If I have to sacrifice one guy, it probably is Jared Young out of that mix, though. Maybe works better as just a 3-man with Frankie Alvarez, A.J. Ewing, and Frankie Lindor. Not a bad setup there. I mean, that's a 3-man for 4,000 basically on the nose, 12-1 total. On the Braves side, I think they're a little bit more straightforward. They're also a little bit more expensive man for man. Drake Baldwin's a terrific option at catcher on any slate. 20 home runs, a 357 on base, a 377 xWOBA. Monster contact, low strikeout, tremendous walk rate. Acuna Jr. is one of the best players in the game when he's fully healthy. This season, over 292 in and out of the lineup, 12 homers, 15 steals. Is getting on base at a 353 clip, is hitting the ball pretty hard, 14.1% barrel. It's diminished somewhat, particularly in the consistency around the hard hit rate. But these are still, in a vacuum, very good numbers. 3,800 is a little bit reduced price-wise. 57, you could say the same thing. That's a 6,000, 4,000 player, if we're being honest about things. Matty Olson, 5,000, 3,800. Not sure why he's so cheap. 34 home runs on the board in a fantastic season and all his career success. 140 WRC plus, 380, 362 weighted on base against ex-Woba. One of the very best first base options on any given slate, and plenty of upside against a righty who allows a significant number of fly balls. If the Braves do find that home run upside, Matt Olson is very likely to be a part of it. 11 plus for him and Drake Baldwin in the home run model today. Harris slips a little bit below that mark, but still showing good power upside at 8.44. He's maintained tremendous contact throughout the season. He slipped below a 50% hard hit rate, but that's still very, very good and shows significant improvement for him. 20 home runs on the board, 291, 319, 493 at 120 WRC plus. Right in line, ex-Woba weighted on base. Love it. Ozzie Albies, 42, 3,000, completely defying expectations on the season, but we've seen it from Ozzie in the past, and he's not really slowed down. 19 homers on the board. Ultimately, probably around a mix and match talent, but does more than that on a pretty regular basis, even though the numbers don't fully back it up from an expected sense. Mauricio Dubon, mix and match piece, quality across 4 positions on FanDuel. I don't love him at shortstop on DK, would play in the outfield at 31, but ultimately doesn't particularly hit the ball hard, needs some help from his friends to really find success. I'd much rather have Austin Riley if I'm going down to this part of the lineup. Riles has clawed his way up to an 11.5% barrel, 44.6% hard hit rate, starting to be more representative of the talent. He's up to 14 home runs and 471 chances, got a shot at 20, 7 stolen bases, and the rest of it we're just going to ignore. Jim Jarvis, and Murph's back in the lineup. I didn't even notice that. 22 plate appearances this season for Murph, but last season, 13.2% barrel. The year before, 9.6. The year before that, 15.8. Last year, it led to a bad slash line in 337, but 16 home runs. Year before that, bad slash line in 261, but 10 home runs. And then a 21 home run season with a pretty good overall line, a 129 WRC plus back in 2023 when he was last fully present and actually good. But at 2,700, that's another interesting mixer that I certain won't get all that popular. Positional conflict with Drake Baldwin obviously sucks, but that's a massive price savings for a guy with, I don't want to say similar talent upside because that takes us down the wrong road, but a guy who can pay off a good high quality DFS score from time to time for you still. Braves bats. Christian Scott. Bryce Elder on DraftKings. Mets bats. Bryce Elder on FanDuel. Quality likes the Mets today. What did I just do? I clicked on something. Oh, okay. There's a new little pop-up option down there. All of a sudden the screen changed around the chat. It's also like you ever get that like pressure imbalance in your head? It's like your ear needs to pop and it's just like, got that going on a little bit. Like my voice sounds weird in my head. This ear is a little bit like, oh, there it goes. That's better. Meach likes the A's. Yeah, that's an interesting spot. We'll get there eventually. Like I said earlier, the one thing about the A's today, I've completely forgotten who they're facing. That one, right? No, wait. Rays. There it is. The absences in that lineup kind of bring down the home run numbers a little but. Tyler Soderstrom 9.17 leading the group, but without those big thumpers in the lineup, it's a different kind of a squad, even in that home park. They do have a 4.52 implied total against a gettable Freddie Peralta. I wouldn't take them away from you, and I do think they're interesting. But it is a different version of the Athletics than earlier in the year. The O's coming in at 4.38 implied total going up against Dean Kramer at 6,200, 7,800. He's just a mix and match flyer of a value option. 23.3% strikeout over 8 starts, just a 7.6% walk rate is manageable. Nice 11.5% swinging strike rate. Pitching to a 5.93 ERA, but has a much cleaner 3.99 xFIP that's more who he is, 4.01 Sierra. Has managed premium contact in a limited sample of 8 starts, but some incidental home runs are kind of dragging him down overall with that 6.9 6.98% home run rate. You can see the stuff is lacking. He's lacking across all three of the plus categories. Not a great option. Going back in time, 29 starts last year, worked to a 4.23 ERA, 4.25 xFIP, again, around a 4-run, 4+ pitcher. Sub 20% strikeout rate, but just barely. So there's not a lot of expectation of quality here. He's very cheap. He's a bargain bin dart, probably more of a piece on the DraftKings slate that would just be just that, a value bin dart that doesn't have all that much appeal. But on a thin slate for quality out of that bargain bin, he is a guy you could pick up and throw at his former team here. Trevor Rogers at 8,000, 9,000, the better of the two pitchers, 4.20 ERA, 4.21 xFIP, a 20% strikeout. Not exactly standing out for all that much quality and looking a lot like Dean Kramer on the other side through those numbers. But it comes over 21 starts. He's been good at limiting power, and he's taken a lot of the power upside away from the Twins. Their biggest bat is also not in the lineup. So just a downside, a moderate day for the Twins at 4.22 implied, let's say. I think Rodgers is interesting at 8 on DraftKings, less so on FanDuel at 9,000. There's more upside in some of the other starters, given some better strikeout options for similar prices. He's usable on either site, a lot more DraftKings appeal. If you go to the O's, I think they're interesting play. Mid-4s implied total. They landed right there on the board, and where they really stand out, as we talked about on the stacks board earlier, is for those value marks. 7th by projection and 2nd by value on FanDuel, 9th and 1st on DraftKings. Gunnar Henderson, below 5,000. He's hit 18 home runs. He's stolen 9 bases. Everything else has been a total mess. One of the big problems overall for this Orioles team, and just the basically bust that this young upside players thing has been, this young core thing has been the underperformance of Gunnar Henderson. There's no arguing it. But there's still a lot of quality there for these diminished prices. He's drawing a 10+ in the home run model today, and definitely a tremendous piece if you're going Orioles. Pete Alonso, 12+ in the home run model, just 52 on DraftKings, and even better, 33 on FanDuel. 25 homers on the board, 346 on base. Alonso has not been the problem for the O's this year. He's been good. 384 xWOBA, 354 actual, 30 points of additional quality lurking under the surface too. Hits the ball extremely hard, could go on a run for power through the last couple months of the season. Jackson Holliday, don't sleep on Jackson Holliday hitting 3rd. 246, 350, 393. 6 home runs, 6 stolen bases. Making okay contact, just not consistently enough, but an 8.3% barrel that represents an uptick over last year. And as we talked about, last year was better than he gets credit for. 649 plate appearances, 17 homers, 17 steals, just a 304 weighted on base and a 313 xWOBA. But there's the flaws, the 96 WRC plus. There's no consistency here. But from a fantasy perspective, those are good counting stats, or at least on their way to. And he fills all the categories. I talked about it the other day. I think there's a strong argument to be made for Jackson Holliday to be like next year's Jordan Walker type breakout, like former top prospect who maybe got tarnished a little bit over some underperformance or perceived underperformance as he got his feet wet in the show and primed for a breakout. And he's kind of doing some of that already. 14.3% walk rate is significant. Look at the uptick in walk rate so far this season. It's a talented kid, oozing with talent, kind of finally starting to put it together, and it's a great spot in the lineup as well. Second base eligible on both sides for very, very cheap. Tyler O'Neill, 27 on both sides, 10 home runs on the board this season and only 222 plate appearances, was mostly out of the lineup for most of the season. They're paying him too. They're paying him a fair amount of money to basically not hit. But he's found his way into the lineup for, I think, 6 consecutive starts now, getting more opportunities against righties, finding some quality, finding some success. And Tyler O'Neill has always had tremendous power. Look at these barrel rates over the last few seasons. The output is inconsistent. Last year, Sub Mendoza, 292 on base, only 9 home runs and 209 plate appearances. Year before that, he hit 31 in 473 chances. Year before that, just 9 in 266. Year before that one, he had a decent total. So it's an on-off switch, but when he's on, very, very good. And he is underpriced for a on version of Tyler O'Neill. Dylan Beavers, quality lefty at 29-26, just 2 home runs, 5 steals, an adequate 324 on base. Underperformance, but still a below average xWOBA. Limited for premium contact, but flashed a little bit better in terms of barrels in limited action last year. There is upside there for that player. Leody Taveras, just a mix and match outfielder on either site. Kobe Mayo has a little bit of upside around those premium contact marks for cheap at third base on either site. 15 home runs in 298, pretty disappointing otherwise plate appearances, but there is very, very real power there. So we're just homer hunting against Dean Kramer, who hasn't exactly allowed, again, a lot of premium contact, but has allowed a lot of incidental home runs in those 8 starts. Mayo's in the mix. Colton Cowser's in that mix as well, 10.7% barrel in a very disappointing year, 282 bad plate appearances, 9 home runs, 8 steals is the only real upside there. 10.7% barrels from the left side for cheap. That's all we're looking for. And then Carlos Narvaez, mix and match catcher. If you're going to Twins against Rogers, again, limits the power upside. I don't really love going to this Twins team when I'm not getting them paid off for power. No Cody Clemens in the lineup against the lefty. No Trevor Larnach against the lefty. You'd be focused on some of these righties like a light-hitting Austin Martin, who has not found much success other than just as a table setter this year. And even through that, 348 on base over 325 chances, he's still 7 points below average for run creation by WRC+. So that's a really limited piece. Ryan Jeffers, fantastic at 53-31. That's a great way to fill catcher against the lefty. 10 home runs on the board, 384 on base. Been tremendous. 11.5% barrel, 41.4% hard hit rate. Royce Lewis would be a big part of that with his ability to make contact from the right side. He's also affordable. You'd want him at second on DraftKings. You'd want him at third on FanDuel. 13 homers, 11 steals in just an okay season overall. Josh Bell has been tremendous for scoring runs and driving them in. 58 runs, 68 ribbies. That's all just cashing in on opportunities. There's nothing predictive about it. But what he does is just consistently put the ball in play. He's low strikeout, medium walk rate, 21.3, 8%. The 8% is up and down from career norms. He's bounced between like 8 and 10% over the last few seasons. He's hit the ball very hard and pretty consistently. But the numbers this year at 9.9 and 41.8 are actually down from last year. So he's just doing what he does well, and the guys that are above him in the lineup most of the time have helped him really become this run creation engine. But if he's got 2 guys in the lineup, that it's unfair to say that Austin Martin wouldn't be a good on-base option, and Jeffers has been a very good on-base option, but it's not exactly the configuration of the lineup that leads to all those opportunities for Josh Bell. He's very playable at 35-28. But just in that solid average guy, not a ton of ceiling type. Well, no exceptional ceiling is what I should say. Luke Keeschel, mix and match guy in the outfield. 2,900 at second base is probably a little bit more appealing. Just another outfielder on DK. Second base works a little bit better on FanDuel. 6 homers, 14 steals, an appealing 353 on base, a 104 WRC+, but ultimately light hitting. Brooks Lee, mix and match piece, 42, not a great price, 28. Across the middle infield is fine. 17 homers that are a bit of an outlier given how he actually contacts the ball. 3.8% barrel, 32% hard hits. Kalen Culpepper, one of those kids that got the call up just the other day that I mentioned, we called out in Discord, hit a home run in that debut performance at the min price, has been up and down, but has made some interesting contact in limited action over 8 plate appearances so far, and a major piece of this Twins team's future, big upside prospect for them. Victor Caratini, always good for a little bit of premium contact upside for a cheap catcher. Ryan Kreidler, mix and match guy. Orioles bats. Trevor Rogers on DraftKings. Trevor Rogers on FanDuel. Twins bats, Dean Kramer. I think. Meach, the Baltimore resident, saying seeing Adley with the Red Sox so painful. Yeah, that was. I gotta say, it was surprised how engaged they were with the AL East on that Adley deal. It was basically apparently down to the Red Sox and the Yankees, which is really not how you do business. That's a weird decision by them, but yeah, that's representative of the crumbling of that core, or at least the underperformance. I think there's still a very good path for them to quickly stitch it back together and get those guys get paid off by all that upside. But didn't go to plan. Process kind of fell apart. Hunter Dobbins, just 68 on DraftKings. Definitely an interesting value piece. 21.3% strikeout on a 9.7%. Swinging is okay. 3.60 ERA, a 4.01 xFIP. This is probably who he actually is. But he's been all right through these 5 outings, and that's a very manageable price for what he could potentially go out here and give us. Last time out, 6 2/3 or 6 1/3 rather, against the Yankees. 2 runs, 4 hits, 4 Ks, 3 walks, 2 home runs allowed. Not a great start, but for the price, that's perfectly fine given the depth and getting through it with only a couple earned runs allowed. The start before that, 4 earned runs on 7 hits over 5 1/3 to the Cubbies. Downside day, only 4 strikeouts, a home run allowed. Struck out 5 over 6 innings against the Angels. I think I talked about this one earlier in the show. Shut them out, but allowed 6 hits over 6 innings back on the 22nd. So those are your targets for any kind of an upside day. 6,800. This is not a premium pitcher. He's barely above average locator and below average across most of the plus categories. Not a big time strikeout guy. Not a lot of ceiling. At 85 on FanDuel, I really shake my head at that one. But this is in the bargain bin for sure, and one of the more appealing guys in that bin. Andrew Painter on the other side, a lot less appealing at 6,000. 18% strikeouts against 8.3% walk. This is okay if you're doing more to knock runs down and not just allow teams to consistently cash in premium contact and power and home runs. There are some things to like. There are some positive indicators, though. The 35.2% hard hits, just 87.1 miles an hour of exit velo, and the limited walks speaks to a kid that can find it and eventually be the talent that the Phillies have looked at him at as a prospect. He is at least slightly above average across all 3 of the plus categories. He is missing bats at an okay rate at 10.3%. It's just not, he's got to learn how to finish hitters off. 6.48 ERA, but a better 4.68 xFIP, 4.55 SIERA. But just right now, we're not there yet. Against a good enough Cardinals team with a mid-4s implied total, we're not there yet. 7,000 on FanDuel, no appeal. 6,000 on DraftKings. The most marginal slate if you're building 150 lineups and you want to get to everybody kind of appeal. But that's about it. Is that like one good fantasy start all year? Phil's bats against Hunter Dobbins, absolutely, from that 4.66 implied total. Kyle Schwarber would be a monster part of that equation, doubling the magic number for home run upside now. 35 on the season, 369 on base, just doing Kyle Schwarber things out there, which does include a fair amount of strikeouts, 34.4%, but that's offset by the 15.1% walk rate, just the mold for a 3 true outcomes hitter. Trey Turner, mix and match option through most of the season with upside through counting stats for a lot more than that on any given slate, I think is probably the fair way to put it. 4,600, 3,400 is fair. 248, 295, 400 is where the mix and match of it comes through. But he's scored 80 times. He's hit 17 homers and stolen 17 bags. It's not really driving anybody in, but we don't need that from Trey Turner. It's just if we can find any kind of consistency at all of output, and 304 weighted on base against the 299 xWOBA and 88 WRC plus shows you the problem there. If you can find any kind of consistency, that's an absolute run creation machine at worst with power and stolen base upside. He's put together a better stretch. Let's see where he's at 10 days later since the last time we talked about it. We did see a nice surge for some counting stats, some power. Let's go through back to the 16th of July, 298, 337, 585, a 146 WRC plus, 7 of those home runs. Only 1 of the stolen bases, oddly, but 18 runs scored, 14 ribbies, just a 19.8% strikeout, a 287 ISO. He's been finding the extra base hits, finding the premium contact a lot more frequently. Same stretch, 8% barrel, 41.3% hard hit. Max exit velocity up to 110 miles an hour, which I believe was the top mark for his season. A 512 actual weighted on base over those few weeks against a 346 xWOBA. But again, via that xWOBA, we're talking about Trey Turner back to being Trey Turner. That's a much better mark than that. So right now, we're probably just getting a discount on a mostly return to form Trey Turner. Bryce Harper, 56, 37, 25 home runs on the board. Just one of the better players in baseball, one of the better players in this lineup. 11.6% barrels on the year, 368 on base, has outfield eligibility again, which is dynamite for putting this team together with not only within their lineup, but just within with other teams. Kyle Schwarber at first base only, but everything works nicely. Luis Arias is on the Phils now, finds a lot of success via the hit tool, 320, 355, 441. Nice table setter for the bottom of the lineup, hitting ahead of Alec Boehm. That should feed Boehm ongoing RBI opportunities. 63 ribbies on the season for Boehm to despite a total disaster at 227, 288, 359. He's been paying off their RBIs. That's the one thing he's doing well. Brandon Marsh, cheap, 41.28 for a guy finding a lot of success overall this year. 274, 316, 439, 16 homers, 10 steals. He has been diminished somewhat. We talked about that early on in that he was finding a ton of success on batting average on balls in play and that it was likely to diminish overall. 324 weighted on base against the 313 xWOBA, but still good for counting stats. Still a guy who over the years has consistently hit the ball right around this level in terms of premium contact and has consistently been basically this guy. So now you're just getting Brandon Marsh with no tax applied for what he's done in his best season so far. It's not a bad spot. JT Realmuto, 35-27, just a mix and match quality catcher these days, if even that. Underperforming is 323 xWOBA, but even if he was there, I'd be saying the same thing. That's a pretty lackluster mark. Bryson Stott, Justin Crawford, mix and match pieces at their respective positions. Both guys in the 260s, 336 on base for Bryson Stott at second base makes him the more interesting guy. Justin Crawford, more just another outfielder type, but pulled this season together at least a little bit. 266, 316, 354. Just an 84 WRC plus gives him a lot of growth needing to still be done, but 16 steals, we're getting into okay kind of territory outside of the run creation mark. On the card side, JJ Weatherholt, strong option at second base, 16 homers, 12 steals, up and down in terms of the consistency, but 249, 353, 387 at worst, can hit the ball hard, can swipe you a bag, can get on base and set the table for the rest of the guys in the lineup, and has room to grow that's visible in the xWOBA there. Herrera, great option at catcher at just 4,200, 13 home runs, solid slash line, a tremendous 361 on base, setting the table for the guys who are delivering power this year, and Alec Burleson and Jordan Walker, 19 and 23 home runs respectively. Both guys hitting in the 280s, both guys carrying double-digit barrel rates, tremendous options. Both guys getting on at a 340 plus clip, 127 and 130 WRC plus. The linchpins for everything that goes on in this Cardinals lineup. You don't build with this team without these two players for the most part. And JJ Weatherholt's in that same conversation. Those three guys all above the magic number going up against Andrew Painter, and his downside for allowing a little bit of home run, home runs that have come on. They're not entirely incidental, right? Given that 9% barrel rate, that means on the consistent fly ball trajectory of that 15.8 degree average launch, when he makes mistakes, they're fly ball mistakes that can get into the seats pretty effectively. 4.42% home run. So despite inducing a lot of weak and medium contact, inducing a fair minimalization in exit velocity on average, the loud contact is very loud. So that could get paid off through that. Nathan Church, 32-26, okay option from the left side, but mostly just a mix and match guy. A little bit of pop in the bat, 9 home runs, 7 stolen bases, but pretty low end through the slash line, just a 79 WRC plus, nothing in the weighted on base categories. And that applies to basically the entire bottom part of this Cardinals lineup. They're a top heavy squad. Mason Wynn, overrated coming into the year and did nothing to change my mind about that. 83 WRC plus, a 305 xWOBA under an even worse actual WOBA. Jose Fitterman, just a mix and match guy. Jimmy Crooks is interesting if you're playing on DraftKings for the power upside. 8.8% barrel, 48.5% hard hits in his 114 plate appearances, 4 home runs on the board, but ultimately very inconsistent. You're just hoping for one good piece of incidental contact when Andrew Painter makes a mistake. And then Cesar Prieto, mix and match piece at the dead min price, let's say. 0 for 23 so far in the show. Prieto, limited across any kind of traditional scouting. Good hit tool. Multiple stops where you get 300, got on base a little bit. Upside to, in a good year, 12 home run type power, 14 looks like the ceiling. And that's it. A little bit aged up stops through the minors. So that's a non-prospect. He's 2,000. That's the reason I looked. Third base on DraftKings, shortstop on FanDuel, not a great option to fill here. Maybe over here if you're filling out a 5-man from the cards. You just go like top line through those 4 and then just wrap it around with him to offset some price. 5-man for 21.3 total, 42.60 average. I'd probably rather just take it as like a 3-man or just use like a Nathan Church in the middle. Phil's bats, Cards bats, Dobbins Painter. Dobbins, again, more important to DraftKings. Phil's 5th on both sides by points. Bounced poorly off the value marks, but second by home runs, fifth best Vegas total. And the Cards, not bad. Sixth by value, ninth by value across sites, third by home run upside against Painter, with three of those guys again above the magic number. Definitely gives the Cards some appeal. So this is bats on both sides. Glenwood said 0 for 23, so you're saying he's due. As much as due could be a thing, yeah. Yeah, one would expect him to have had a hit by now. We'll say it that way. 4.11 implied total for Texas. Angels coming in at 3.98. As mentioned already, I like both lefties in this game. These are just two good pitchers. Mackenzie Gore coming in with a 4.55 ERA, but that's not him. 3.86 xFIP, 3.82 Sierra. That's more. Mackenzie Gore, 25.6% strikeout against 8.6% walk. We're hovering in, effective range, short of ace caliber, and I think that's about what we think of Mackenzie Gore. He's a solid B-tier type pitcher. But if he's your third man in your rotation, you're pretty happy with that. 8,500, 9,200. I'm pretty happy taking him against some high strikeout Angels. Some potential at those prices for him to have a very successful day. What we need to fade is the power in this Angels lineup. There's no more Joe Adell on this team. There's no Jorge Soler, at least in this projected version of the lineup. There's two premium right-handed power bats, and neither of those guys is even coming in above the magic number. Gore allowing just 2.93% home runs, but it does come on some contact. That's the thing to be aware of. 42.4% hard hits over the threshold. 89.2 miles an hour of exit velo is manageable, but it does come on a 16.3 degree average launch. So he's leading up to a 9% barrel rate allowed. That's significant enough to be at least a little concerned about some power. Looking back in time, it's been similar. There's a lot of hard hit, a lot of exit velocity, both marks above the threshold, as was the barrel rate last year, but he still kept home runs down below 3%. Same thing the year before that on reduced premium contact, 2% home runs. So he's really never been burnt by allowing a fair amount of upside for hard hit balls. He can manage it. If he manages it today, I like his upside to have a successful day against an Angel squad that this projected lineup anyway, 24.2% strikeout rate. 96 WRC plus collectively for the active roster, over 813 plate appearances against left-handed pitching this season. It's a gettable spot, sub 4 implied total. Going the other direction, Reed Detmers at 87. What I love about Detmers, look how above average he is across all three of the plus categories. Significant stuff, fantastic locator. That is a good pitcher. And he's mostly made it work. He's run us into trouble a couple times DFS-wise this season when he hasn't been particularly sharp. And as mentioned, he did see a little bit of a reduction over the last 6 starts or so in his usual depth, but typically very good at pitching for depth. 129 innings in his 23 starts overall, even with that slowdown, and I would expect him to pick it back up now since they didn't trade him. 28.3% strikeout against 7.4% walk. He is above our 20% threshold to call him an ace. 4.12 ERA, but a 3.58 xFIP, 3.43 Sierra that completely reflects that decision. 12.3% swinging strike rate. Again, tremendous for K's. He's going up against a Rangers lineup, the projected version of which has a 26.9% strikeout rate. 26% last year, 23.9 for the guys who were in the league 2 years ago. It's a gettable squad. Love the upside for the lefty to carve this team up. There's a little bit of lurking danger around Jake Berger with a little bit of right-handed power. The two guys at the 10-plus marks in Wyatt Langford and Corey Seager, their best two players up at the top of the lineup. But Detmers is more than good enough to get through that. That's where your downside will come from. It might even come early. You might see the Wyatt Langford leadoff home run and say, Detmers was a mistake. I look forward to Seth in Discord actually saying Detmers gave him a hot Cosby. Rangers fan, magic number is just my shorthand for being above a 10. The home run model, it's just a custom number that I put together. 10 is essentially the indicator of that's a good spot for a home run, right? Good home run bat in a good spot or guy uplifted by circumstance, whatever. So 10 plus is what I'm saying, the magic number. Halfway, 5 gives you just a meh kind of a chance. Below that is obviously not a great chance. Anything between 5 and 10 is, above, good to above average type opportunity for home run power. And then obviously beyond 10, Kyle Schwarber was double so far today, just monster spot. So it's just reflecting a little bit of the power through my custom home run number. Where was I? Reed Detmers looks good. Mackenzie Gore looks good. So yeah, both lefties at price. I like the pricing on both guys. I don't think either one of them, you could have put them 1,000 more each on DraftKings, I would have been fine with it. I wouldn't have loved Mackenzie Gore at 10-2, but I would have been talking about getting away with it and probably how it would reduce popularity. He'll probably get some ownership on at 9,200, but probably not the most popular pitcher on the board. So I like that spot, and I like this spot. Rangers bats against. If we're going in that direction again, we're talking about Wyatt Langford and Corey Seager, obviously, at the top of the lineup. Langford's hit 13 homers and 283 plate appearances. Seager's missed a large chunk of time. It's also a lefty-lefty spot, but we're not really sweating that for him. He puts tremendous bat on ball. 11 home runs in his lost season here. 334 xWOBA to target under that 298 ugly actual weighted on base when he's been in action. Just, again, a lost season for Corey Seager, but if he's in the lineup, you're going to him. He would be one of the biggest threats to redeemers. Ezekiel Duran, just a mix and match talent. Brandon Nimmo, lefty-lefty, I don't love, but has hit the ball consistently hard all season and not really found that many results for it. 13 home runs, a solid 274, 344, 47, slash line of 122 WRC plus, but the 372 xWOBA against that 344 actual. This is an excellent actual, but there's so much more there given that 51.4% hard hit, how consistently well he strikes the baseball. So there is a little bit of disappointment, even in a okay return to form here for Brandon Nimmo this year. Berger's got power upside, double-digit barrels, 47.1% hard hits. Again, there is lurking power on this Texas team. They just don't put it together often enough. Even Justin Foscue, 10.3% barrel over what's now 151 plate appearances, 7 home runs, 255, 318, 474. That's okay. 219 ISO, that's solid for extra base hits. A lot of strikeouts in his game, but that's a playable piece at 35-25 at second base. If you're already going here, he's not a reason to go to the Rangers. Elias Diaz, Jonah Bride, Cam Cauley, mix and match pieces all down through the bottom of the lineup. Cauley, 61, pretty disappointing plate appearances for one of the Rangers' better organizational prospects. Mostly a hit tool and speed focused player, but has done none of that so far in the show. Maybe just needs more seasoning. If he's in the lineup, he's loosely playable, but again, not a reason to go to the Rangers. Greatly prefer him at second base to the outfield on DK. Would not play him at shortstop on FanDuel. On the Angels side, again, you're just hunting for power upside against Mackenzie Gore. If he slips, it's going to be around the home run ball. He's good enough that, and there are enough strikeouts present here, by the way, that even if he gives up that long ball, he could claw that back DFS-wise and be perfectly fine for it. So as long as it's not 2 home runs with multiple guys on base each time, we're probably going to be okay, even if he doesn't fully fade the home run. But if you're going to Angels, Neto, Trout, absolute priorities, and then mixing and matching your way through the rest of this. The most interesting other bats in this lineup, other than those two guys, are actually Jose Siri, buried down here. We've talked about Siri a few times this season. We found success with him in sneaky spots. 7 home runs and 135 plate appearances, 273, 331, 504, 231 ISO. Last year only made 36 plate appearances. Year before, sub Mendoza and a 255 on base, but did hit 18 home runs, stole 14 bases that season. That's an interesting fantasy season. Year before, pretty similar, 222, 267, 494. But the dude hit 25 home runs and stole 12 bags and only 364 plate appearances. So regardless of any kind of consistency, that is a good DFS option on any given slate, particularly when you can get him against a lefty who has a little bit of an issue with fly balls and premium contact from time to time. So if the Angels get to Mackenzie Gore, I would expect Jose Siri to be a big part of it. He's only 32.25 across sites. That's an interesting piece. Travis d'Arnaud, for similar reasons, is another interesting guy, particularly where you need catchers at 2,300. That's a guy who has made major premium contact over several seasons, back to back to back. So far this year, 49 pretty bad plate appearances, just 1 home run on the board, but just didn't get his feet wet at all for the season. He comes in very cheap for a guy who can put bat on ball in just random spots like he can. Denzer Guzman, Oswald Peraza, Vaughn Grissom, Nolan Shanuel, those are all mix and match type guys. Thought maybe we would get a little something interesting out of Peraza. I think he's got those same 7 home runs that he hit in like April and May. 12 stolen bases, 232, 277, 359. It just didn't materialize, unfortunately, for Ozzy. He got his basically full shot here. 304 plate appearances, more than we were expecting for him on the season. Just didn't come together. You're not going to a guy like that. Vaughn Grissom, 7 home runs, 249, 313, 387, 95 WRC plus. Nolan Shanuel gets on base, but who's he setting the table for if he's sitting behind Trout and Neto and Trout? Just a poorly constructed lineup. It's a weird setup. You want those two guys. Again, this is the projected version of the lineup, but even lefty-lefty, Shanuel should probably lead off. Or honestly, Mike Trout should lead off. Just flip these two. Let Trout lead off. Have Neto hit second. But then you're not using Shino for anything. I mean, he's fine as a 3-hitter for what his skill set is, averaging on base. But again, there's nobody behind him to set the table for. So maybe your Shanuel 3, Jose City cleanup, Travis d'Arnaud there, and then Grissom Peraza slide down here and move Guzman and Wade Meckler. That's probably the way to do it. Jose City cleanup is what we would want to see today. If you see that, if you see any combination of Neto, Trout, Shanuel, Jose City, Travis d'Arnaud in the top 5 spots, it's more appealing for the Angels than this construction of this lineup. Doesn't make him a go-to by any means. Still prefer the pitching. This goes Reed Detmers, Mackenzie Gore, Rangers bats, Angels bats. I'll side with Vegas. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We are taking our sweet time getting through this one. 5:13. Good to be back. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it. Hopefully you're getting something out of it. As you do that, scrolling across the bottom of your screen right about now, if you want to get behind the paywall, give this a little bit of a test drive. Use the projections tonight and all week long. Promo code TRYME, all one word, capital T, capital M, gets your free first week on a weekly anytime. Always under $1 a day. When that renews, it will be at regular price, which I believe is $6.92 for your next week. Cancel anytime. If it's not canceled, it renews at regular price. Monthly and quarterly plans also available. It includes everything that hits that website. There's going to be a ton of football content coming your way for that same under $1 a day investment. So no time like the present to jump in, guys. Again, promo code TRYME. Also, make sure you come back after the show. Enter the pitching picks contest. Win yourself a free month of content. You can start at any time, so you can hold it until football's in full swing and get more bang for your buck. But we're looking to pick the pitcher. I took Tarek Skubal off the board. We're looking to pick the pitcher who's going to book a quality start, which is 3 earned runs or fewer over 6 innings and 8+ strikeouts. You nail that guy, you're on your way. First to 5 correct picks. It's a multi-day contest. First to 5 correct picks in the comments wins a free month. Got to use the same YouTube name every day for my sanity. 1 pick per person per day has to be from this slate. Freddie Peralta, as mentioned, first start for the Rays, Coors Field, problematic day. Second start for the Rays, out at Sutter, leading to a potentially problematic day. Hasn't been pitching well, does not project all that well. Super talented pitcher, but just really has not been on form this year. 21.8% strikeout, walking too many. 11.3% swinging strike is okay, but working to a 5.37 ERA, a 4.26 xFIP, 4.30 Sierra, or more in line with who Freddie is. Last year, 3.87 xFIP, 3.70 Sierra. Again, there's a half a run difference between those marks, but this is at least in conversation with this, where this is way out of line with that. This is way out of line with that. Even the swinging strikes are down somewhat. The CSW is down significantly. He's allowed more premium contact and more power this year. So Freddie's really been going through it. And now you're throwing him into one of the best hitting ballparks in the country. Don't love the upside for him. But if you're just dipping into the bargain bin on DraftKings at 6,700, you got to at least consider the potential. You know, when you're arguing him against Hunter Dobbins against Philly, Noah Cameron against the Dodgers, Blake Tidwell, and there's no real contender for that's the obvious guy that you go to instead of Freddie. So he's as much in the mix as any of those bad names in the bargain bin, more than a Michael Soroka who's not in the bargain bin at those prices and not going to pitch deep into his ball game. So he's at least part of the discussion on DraftKings. On FanDuel at 76, I don't see him getting the quality start. He hasn't been working deep into games by and large this year. Not a good situation. 4.52 implied total against. He's more off the board over here. He's more in the mix over there. Jacob Lopez, as mentioned, 5,500. That kind of works. The numbers for the season are messy. Even the underlying numbers, 5.42 xFIP, 5.06 Sierra, 5.64 ERA. I'd get going away from them in a bad situation, in a bad ballpark. The Rays leading the slate at a 5.60 implied total. Believe me, I don't feel comfortable endorsing the idea of going to Jacob Lopez for cheap. But he just paid this off the other day against the Red Sox in this ballpark. And he is a talented pitcher. Last season, worked to a 4.0 ERA, a 4.13 xFIP, struck out 28.3% on an 11.8% swinging strike rate over 92 2/3 in 17 starts. That's a good part of a season. Good half season. 3.76 Sierra. Again, 28% strikeout. There were too many walks involved, but that was a 19% strikeout minus walk rate half year. It's approaching ace caliber levels with some obvious problems around, some home runs that got out of the ballpark. But when you look at that, part of that is this ballpark. 21.8 degree average launch obviously can lead to some incidental home runs when you're playing in a minor league bandbox. But look at the hard hit rate. Look at the exit velo. 33.2%, 86.9 degree miles an hour of exit velocity. Just a 6.6% barrel rate despite all the frequency of fly balls. And he's doing that again this year. 31% hard hits allowed this year in his 15 starts. 85.5 miles an hour of exit velo. 4.8% barrels. Same consistently fly ball trajectory leading to the same incidental home runs that get out. But that's ballpark. That's this ballpark. That's Vegas. Some sure came on the road. No doubt about it. But the kid is good. Demonstrably good over a full season of starts now at inducing weak and medium contact. Don't be shocked if this top-heavy Rays team goes a little bit sideways. I'm not saying take them off the board. They're my number one stack of the day. We obviously want to go there. They're going to be ludicrously popular, and there's a fair lane through which they disappoint, just like the Red Sox did in this exact same spot the other day. That said, the Rays, pretty tremendous option. 370 on base percentages for the top three hitters in the lineup. Definitely feeds the run creation engine. That's just a ridiculous stretch of table setters when those guys all have some power upside and are just as good as they are. Junior Caminero comes in at 16.16 in the home run model. Absolute monster, 33 homers on the season. Tremendous for batted balls. He is the big problem for Jacob Lopez here. But again, if Lopez just faces, see him 3 times, managed to induce weak contact on a couple weak fly balls, don't quite get into the seats, that changes the perspective for the Rays immediately. If you just take some home run potentially away from Junior. Get tons of run creation through these 3 guys. That's an average 136 WRC plus. And now over 192 plate appearances. You can add Ryan Vilade to the conversation. He's a speedy player, 331 weighted on base against the 309 xwOBA, but the type of profile that you would expect to continue to defy xwOBA. But what he's not is a power bat. What he's not is a cleanup hitter. 9 home runs against some incidental contact fed by some good situational upside and some incidental power, but not a premium power hitter. So kind of miscasting the cleanup role. Johnny DeLuca, 101 WRC plus, carrying a 315 weighted on base against a 280 xwOBA. That's not a lot of quality to speak for. 8 home runs, 12 steals, 258, 291, 438. There's no consistency there. 21.4% strikeout against 4.4% walk. Chandler Simpson, extreme low strikeout, very low walk. He's found more success. He's up to 304, 333, 363 now, actually. Still carrying just a 95 WRC plus. 31 stolen bases. He's kind of gotten his act together for getting to first base, which is the key part of his game because he doesn't hit the ball hard. Did hit a inside the park home run, if I'm not mistaken, in spring training. I think he's still chasing his first actual major league home run though. But considering that he's pulled things together in terms of finding success via his speed, via the frequency of balls in play, that's a usable piece, but his price has gone up a little bit commensurate with that. 4,400 on DraftKings, 28 on FanDuel is more manageable. Carson Williams, mix and matcher, 36 pretty bad plate appearances so far. Nick Fortes, no more than a mix and match catcher. And then Taylor Wall, same thing. No home runs, 18 steals, but only a 303 on base, 67 WRC plus. This lineup is about these 3 guys and then just getting it right on which of the 2 or 3 random guys you pick and combine with those guys. On the A's side, again, if we get the diminished version of this lineup, it has less appeal than it otherwise would. Tyler Soderstrom, 19 home runs on the board, showing the most power upside at 9.17 in the model. Lawrence Butler, just 4.20. He's got 7 on the season, 9 stolen bases, but 202, 297 front end of that slash line over now 351 plate appearances. The formerly very good, at least DFS player, mostly gone. 36.27, at least a good price to find him against a shaky righty like Friday this year. Jake Wilson hit to a focus, but completely miscast if he's hitting second. Jonah Heim, cleanup hitter with 11 home runs and 265 plate appearances. Maybe a little upside, but it doesn't really come on any kind of power this year or premium contact this year or in his past. So just some outlier home runs there, and it's not exactly a ton of them. Jeff McNeil, slap-hitting infielder. Tommy White, mix and match type guy, not really putting up much in terms of premium contact or profile across the entire slash line. 49 WRC plus. Donovan Walton, mix and match guy. Carlos Cortez found some premium contact upside early in the season. Still carrying 262, 337, 412 across the slash. 109 WRC plus. Probably the most interesting down lineup guy for the A's. And then Henry Bolte, the ability to hit the ball hard, 5 homers, 13 steals, solid slash line, but just a 95 WRC plus over now 275 plate appearances. The interesting thing about Bolte is when he starts putting together the barrels, the hard hits, there is a little bit more lurking power there. It's not a great version of the A's lineup. It's a good total, good ballpark, good situation against a struggling version of Freddie. Not completely out of the realm of possibility that either one of these pitchers or both goes out there and keeps these teams off the board more than people are expecting today. Serve 5000 asks, what player is in a lineup that hasn't played in a few days? Do you have somebody in mind, Serve? I'm not sure why that matters or who it would be. There's probably several candidates, just nobody immediately springs to mind. But let me know why you're asking or what you had in mind there. There's nothing about that would be predictive of a good day to come though. So, I'm not sure what you're chasing. Bandbox dating us. That's still a baseball term. Less a venue term these days, I guess, but still a baseball term. So quite clearly Rays, A's, Freddie, Jacob Lopez. But if we're playing the bargain bin game on DraftKings, I actually do prefer Lopez at the cheaper price at 55 than 67 for Freddie, who's been equally shaky. No expectations of actual success from either pitcher, but don't be surprised if one or both does come through. Rocks 358 implied total against the D-backs with a 5+. Rocks going up against Soroka, making his return to action. Just got out to mid-50s. Pitches thrown in his rehab start. Great locator, 106.5 in terms of locating, but below average across most of his pitches. And then just the utterly outrageous 141 rating on that slider. Does have decent strikeout stuff, though, off that. 23.7% strikeouts against a 5.1% walk rate. I just don't think we get enough depth out of Soroka here to justify him at the prices. Otherwise, I would love the matchup. I actually have him in the lineup right now for the Dynasty team. I'm just looking for 5 innings of quality against a very low-end Rockies team. Hunter Goodman pulling a 12.22, threatening a little bit for some power upside. He's hit 34 long balls on the season. Wouldn't stun if you put one in the seats, but Soroka's been very good at limiting power. 17-degree average launch, but leading to only a 1.8% home run rate because he's been terrific at inducing weak and medium contact in a very real sense. So he's got that going for him, taking a little bit away from the Rockies. But there's still, if you're going to the Colorado lineup, Hunter Goodman, Mickey Moniak are your two priorities, the $5,000 guys on DraftKings. 19 home runs on the board for Mickey and under 300 plate appearances. Pretty strong for power upside and another solid season for the former number 1 pick. Resurrected his career, to a degree. He looked like a washout for a while there, but has really found it in terms of being a premium power hitter. What he's not is consistent. 370 weighted on base this year, 301 xWOBA lurking under the surface. So at some point, some of the better marks around that slash line do crash if you gave them a full season of plate appearances. We're never going to get there with limited time left, but there is overperformance going on. Know that. Kyle Karros at just 33, 3,000, 9 home runs, solid slash line over now 389 plate appearances. Better option when they're at Coors, but he's nice and cheap at third base. If you're going to this team, he's an inoffensive option. Willie Castro, just a mix and match quality guy, but 13 home runs, a decent slash line overall. Similar things as what I just said about Karros. Troy Johnston, just a mix and match piece who was hit for average and gotten on base, but setting the table for Jordan Beck at the bottom of the lineup is less appealing against a quality pitcher like Soroka, at least for 4 or 5 innings. At the top of the lineup, overperforming Jake McCarthy, 368 weighted on base against a 321 xWOBA, 13 homers, 20 stolen bases. His best season in 399 plate appearances, but a mix and match type outfielder, just another outfielder on talent. Cole Carrick's actually probably better for a slightly cheaper price. 297, 385, 503 start to his career, 5 homers, 6 stolen bases, and 196 chances. Hitting the ball effectively, despite lacking barrels, lacking hard hit rate, drawing an 11.7% walk rate, has speed, has a little bit of pop in the bat as well. So that's an interesting player, more so than TJ Rumfield, more so than I think Jake McCarthy. Rumfield, another low strikeout, put the ball in play, find success for average, set the table lefty, but at least he's in the good spot in the lineup to do that right ahead of Goodman and Moniak. That is a very interesting 4-man stretch. And then you can bolt McCarthy into that if you wanted to, or Karros and Castro both work pretty well at cheap prices in the infield for that through that. So that's not a bad setup to go to the Rockies. But again, a lackluster total at just 3.58 going up against Soroka. And then the bullpen here, don't love the spot. The D-backs going to be popular here, going up against Gabriel Hughes. 23.1% Ks in 5 starts, 29 and 2/3. You got to give him a little credit for that. 4.25 ERA, a 3.75 xFIP. Overall, that has amounted to, let me get there. And pulled the game logs up for a few games, I guess. 5 1/3 last time out, 5 earned runs allowed to Tampa Bay, 7 strikeouts, a home run allowed, 2 walks. That was his worst start. Prior to that, 5 innings against the Pods, 3 earned runs on 6 hits, 5 innings against the Nats, 1 earned run on 5 hits, 5 1/3 against the Reds, solid 6 inning day against the Dodgers where he went 6, allowed 3 earned runs, but struck out 7, walked 2. That's a quality start, 4 hitter against 24 Dodgers. So if you get that kind of a day against a gettable enough Diamondbacks team for 65, he's in the bargain bin on DraftKings. It's reasonable. It's as reasonable to throw Gabby Hughes at the Diamondbacks as it is to throw Freddie Peralta at the A's. 73 on FanDuel. I just think he's less necessary on the FanDuel slate. It's a fine value price. Again, he could get there. It wouldn't shock. If the D-backs pay off that 5+ implied total, it's going to be around the stars up toward the top of the lineup. But they got a little bit of depth with Lars Nootbaar coming in at the deadline. Nootbaar only 3,400, 2,700. 3 home runs, just slashing 229, 333, 343, but capable of making very good contact from the left side on a consistent basis. Hovering around 50% hard hits each of the last 2 seasons, right in that same range so far this year in limited action. That's a better hitter than his numbers would indicate. He's been a good on-base option. He's been scoring runs. 91 WRC plus is a little bit lacking. But again, he's just had some misfortune going on. When he hits the ball consistently hard like this, at that price, that makes him appealing against a pitcher like a growing righty, let's say. I didn't want to diminish Gabby Hughes after just talking him up a bit. Perdomo at the top at 4,200, 3,000, 9 home runs, 17 steals, an excellent 359 on base, a 107 WRC plus. Still kind of lacking in the power output compared to last year, but low strikeout, high walk rate, doing a lot of things to set the table for Corbin Carroll, for Gabby Moreno, for Ketel Marte. 3 consistently good bats following him. 16 home runs, 16 stolen bases for Corbin Carroll. He has cratered a little bit to that 240, 335 front end of the slash line, but overall still pretty good at 117 WRC plus. Ketel Marte has been inconsistent through the year. He's hit 20 home runs, but only getting on at a 306 clip. 346 xWOBA against his 321 actual shows the underperformance. 100 league average WRC plus on the nose, but a low strikeout, put the ball in play with consistently well-struck baseballs, more hard hit barrel in his years past, but that's obviously the star on this team at 5,000 and 3,100, nicely priced across sites at second base. Moreno hits the ball consistently hard, draws walks, 11.3% walk against a 14.8% strikeout rate, slashing 302, 382, 443, 8 home runs on the board. Quietly one of the better catchers in baseball right now at the plate. Down toward the bottom of the lineup, any given slate, potential around Nolan Arenado. He's hit 17 home runs, getting on at a 320 clip. He's been a little bit better than maybe we were expecting, but it hasn't really come on anything that's actually real. The uptick in barrels is where the home runs came from. That's nice to see, considering that the bat speed was the big problem that we were concerned about coming into the season. But it hasn't really led to anything else. 299 xWOBA, 325 actual. Monster overperformance by about 30 points. 103 WRC plus, been slightly above average. Again, I am trying to give him as much credit as possible. I just still think he's broken. You're not paying any kind of tax, 4,000, 3,000, perfectly fine. No issues going to him if you're already going to the Diamondbacks. He is not the appeal to go to the Diamondbacks. He's not the reason I would want them. Max Kepler at 36.24 to me is a better piece. Hits the ball consistently harder than Nolan Arenado and has done for multiple seasons. Multi-time 20 home run hitter from the left side. That's a key piece at just 36.24 in the outfield. So far this year, just 2 home runs and 106 plate appearances. Pretty bad. Slash line, just a 68 WRC plus, but we know Max is better than that, at least when he's on steroids. Tim Tawa, Ryan Waldschmidt down the bottom of the lineup. Mix and match, guys. No, actually, no, excuse me. Waldschmidt's better than that. 283, 330, 405, 2 home runs, 6 steals, a 101 WRC plus. Starting to round into form a little bit, though. That's a high-end prospect for this squad. 31% strikeout is problematic against just 5.3% walks. Needs to really get engaged in terms of driving the ball a little bit better if he's going to strike out and not draw walks like that. But right now, he's found some success on BABIP. He's gotten on base. He's been okay. So reasonable enough wraparound play. Diamondbacks bats. Weirdly, it's Gabriel Hughes on DraftKings, I think is probably next. Rockies bats. Gabriel Hughes on FanDuel, but probably don't need him. And then I just think Soroka's off the board at those prices. 82, 89 is just not a fit for the likely depth 5-inning ceiling, I would think, on Soroka. But can't skip that Brewers game. 3 to go. We'll get there. A lot of talking, especially coming off a few days off. Okay, so Serv followed up his question about who's in a lineup that hasn't played in a few days. Just asking because sometimes they may put someone in a lineup due to him having good batting average against a pitcher, or the player sees the ball well against a pitcher. So, Serv, batter versus pitcher numbers, BVP, is not something you want to pay attention to. The sample size is never, ever in any combination of batter and pitcher ever going to be good enough, large enough, or representative enough to actually be able to extrapolate things like this guy is good against that pitcher. Does it exist? Sure. Do certain hitters own certain pitchers and vice versa? Absolutely. It's entirely unquantifiable. Most of the time you're talking about, when they say it all the time on broadcasts, feeding this idea. And then they'll cite numbers like, he's 7 for 15 lifetime against Freddie Peralta. That means nothing. 15 plate appearances means absolutely nothing. Baseball numbers don't normalize until you're in the multiple hundreds of opportunities at the plate for any given season. And then when you put together the fact that in any of those given seasons, you're talking about, division rivals, a maximum of like 20, 25 plate appearances. So even if you get a healthy looking sample, say, Mike Trout, who's been in the league forever, against Jacob deGrom or Max Scherzer, who, two guys who've been there forever. And it's like, all right, 50 some odd plate appearances against that pitcher. Maybe that's a more, even though it's short of the 200 plate appearances that we want, maybe it's more informative. You start running into the problem of now you're talking about a large chunk of your sample is 5 years ago, Mike Trout, 8 years ago, Mike Trout against 5 years ago, Max Scherzer, 8 years ago, Max Scherzer. It just doesn't mean anything anymore. Those aren't those guys anymore. Those players don't exist anymore. Certainly not in the uniforms they're wearing. So BVP is meaningless. It's not something you want to try and quantify. To the point you're bringing up, though, you do see that a lot with players in or out of lineups. I mentioned it when we talked about the Twins. Cody Clemens, one of their best home run bats. Trevor Larnach, one of their best on-base percentage guys, both out of the lineup because they're facing a lefty today. You'll primarily see it around like lefty-lefty matchups. Platoon, some righties hit lefties better, some lefties hit righties better, so on and so forth. But it's primarily around handedness through large sample, large number, actual known data about how things collide, lefty-lefty and so forth. And there are exceptions to that rule, of course. But you'll very rarely see any kind of actual, even baseball, person. A manager's not going to really, well, that's not true. They'll frequently come up there and say like, hey, he's had success. He's seen him 6 times and hit a home run. They should not be thinking of it through that lens. Let's put it that way, as far as why a guy's in the lineup. And usually that's going to be just reflective of a handedness advantage anyway, a good player in a good spot anyway. Right. So there's always another reason for why he's actually there that actually explains the success that he's had against that pitcher most of the time anyway. So you're not wrong. It's just, it was kind of for the wrong reason. And it's a very, very important thing to talk through. And we haven't ranted and raved about BVP enough this season. Hotter topic in years past. So hopefully that makes some sense, Serv. Let me know any questions. Happy to dig further into it with you. Let's see here. Brewers and Pods, 2 good pitchers in this one as well. Logan Henderson, 10-2-97, entirely justifiable. Kid striking out 32.3% against a 5.2% walk. He's been absolutely tremendous. Remember, when we talk about that strikeout minus walk rate, we're looking for 20 to make an ace. He's at 27.08 over these 10 starts. 2.70 ERA, 2.95 xFIP. This is him paying off his talent, too. He is supposed to be about this good. limiting power, limiting premium contact. Some home runs have gotten into the seats because he is a fly ball oriented pitcher, but it hasn't been because of extreme exit velocity, frequent hard hits, or anything like that. So just some incidental home run upside there. I would expect that to normalize as we get another few starts on here. Above average across all three of the plus categories. Kid is fantastic and in a good spot against a low-end Padres team with a 3.44 implied total. Casey Mize at 9,000 at 8,200, striking out 23.7% against 6.1% walks. That's adequate. 3.40 ERA, 3.96 xFIP, 3.86 SIERA is around a 4-run pitcher. Those are probably the more truthful numbers, but good, high-quality guy who limits premium contact, induces weak and medium fly balls out of players. Another guy with an 18.4 degree average launch angle, but against the 37.8% hard hits, the 89 miles an hour exit velo, it's led to just a 1.65% home run against. It was a little bit lower end than that last year, 3.35, but it came on more frequency of hard hit, more barrels, lower end launch angle, but that could be, playing in his favor where it's, on that kind of ideal home run trajectory rather than if you're gaining launch angle to an extreme degree, you're inducing pop-ups, right? So there's some back and forth to that. 9,000, I don't mind Mize at all, and 8,200 is interesting on FanDuel. He's got enough upside. He's going up against a very good run creation engine in the Brewers. That's where your downside comes from. This team gets on base like crazy. They can make things happen out there for sure. It's Ji-Hwan Bae in this projected Brewers lineup, by the way. That's what all these missing pieces were. They changed the way that he spells his name. There used to be, I think, a dash in between the G and the Juan. But know that that's who that is if you're scuffling with that. If you're going to the Brewers lineup at that 3.63 implied total, knocks them down a peg from where they normally would be, and they're pretty expensive. 15th, 16th by points in value, 15th, 17th on FanDuel, coming in just as 17 by home run, 17 by Vegas total. Pretty much low teens across the board is telling to probably stay away. But if they go low owned, they're, you bring that back around. It is a pitcher friendly park, but who cares? They're just good at sequencing anyway. So if they do their thing out there, they beat the pitcher friendly park anyway. So now they're just talking about an expensive, but probably low owned Brewer squad. It injects them into the conversation a little bit more. 51.36 for Bryce Terang, not a bad price. 16 homers, 16 steals, just another fantastic season for the second baseman. Jackson Chourio, a star at 54.35, 17 homers, 10 steals, and just 381 chances. Buy in; those are cheap prices. This kid is a more expensive player than that. Jake Bauers has been knocked down in price on DraftKings at 4,700. Not sure why. He's up to 21 home runs. He hasn't shown any signs of slowing down that I've noticed. 14.1% barrel, 53.6% hard hit. Jake Bauers is just good and consistently good. 142 WRC plus. Take advantage. He's still 34 on FanDuel. First base and outfield eligibility on both is great because you can move this team around and combine them with other big high-end first basemen and not worry about it. William Contreras at 44,300. Not a bad catcher option. 11 homers on the board. Solid season underway. 327 XWOBA to shoot for with that 314 actual. That's a little bit disappointing. The on base has come down a little bit at 329, down to a 98 WRC plus overall, but still plenty of power upside and consistently puts the ball in play. 14.3% strikeout rate against 8.3% walk. Our on base has come down because that walk rate has come down. 8.3% walk is down from 12 the last couple seasons, double digit throughout his career. Garrett Mitchell hits the ball extremely hard. Doesn't really pay off the home run total, just 8 on the season, but gets on base like crazy, 353 on base. Big part of the run creation engine with a 114 WRC plus. As soon as he starts putting a few more balls into the seats, he takes another leap as far as being a star. Probably needs to cut that strikeout rate a little bit to find more opportunity to do that with. Christian Yelich, bumpy year overall, 232, 315, 369, but still a star. Still good for premium contact upside, 47.31. The price is further down on FanDuel, but cheaper on both sites than he's been in the past. Take advantage because that is still a good player. Luis Lada at 35.28. Premium prospect for this team. 338 on base over 77 plate appearances. The most interesting attribute so far, but there's talent there. That's a reasonable play if you're going to this team already. Just another outfielder overall so far, though. David Hamilton and Bay just mix and match pieces at the bottom. On the pod side, to attack Logan Henderson doesn't seem like a great option, but similar things with them as far as being low owned around some of the key star players, the Tatises of the world, the Manny Machados of the world. But considering the lower end performance from this team, the lack of that run creation engine that the Brewers possess with their sequencing, their on base skills, it's the much, much worse option through that lens between these two teams. Tatis at 59.34, basically back to full price on DraftKings. Up to 11 homers, 26 steals, which are pretty good total for home runs in 518 plate appearances, considering that he didn't hit one until, 300 plate appearances deep in the season. 337 weighted on base against the 360 XWOA is still underperforming overall, but he's reclaimed some of his upside, some of his overall talent, and very good. Lost the second base eligibility on DK, still has it on FanDuel. Jake Cronenworth, 3,026. Lacking for his general quality as far as getting on base. He's typically just a table setter. He's also miscast in the 2 spot in this lineup. Mix and match piece at best. Manny Machado should probably be hitting second. 23 home runs on the board, just a 297 on base, but Manny can still crush a baseball from time to time if Logan Henderson slips for premium contact or just delivers on some upside around one of those fly balls. Manny is one of your more likely candidates to have hit it. Ty France having a great season, 287, 342, 515, 16 home runs on the board, making great consistent contact throughout the year. Can't take much away from him. He's paid it off to a fair sample at this point. Jackson Merrill, not a bad option at 4,400, 3,200 if you're going to this team already. 18 homers, 23 stolen bases. The counting stats are basically there, even though the slash line is not. The WRC plus is just 95. He's hit the ball hard. He's put up good counting stats. That's a good DFS asset. Luis Rengifo, Gavin Sheets, Freddie Fermin, and Sung Mun Song down the bottom of the lineup. Mix and match pieces at best. Gavin Sheets with 15 homers, probably the most interesting one down there, but no real apparent upside through any of those guys, just any given slate potential. Multiple outfielders, too, from this squad. Not great positionally on DraftKings. A little bit more with the flexibility on FanDuel, I would say. Henderson, Mize, Brewers, Padres. What is this? Oh, okay. Kevin Hart, Will Ferrell. Get Hard. Movie where Will Ferrell has to go to prison. Not very good. Just couldn't place it for a moment there. I saw Will Ferrell. Usually if I see one frame of Will Ferrell, I know exactly what movie it's from. Didn't for a moment there. Anyway, not what we're here to talk about. 4.62 implied for the Astros. They're looking pretty good against Blade Tidwell. Comes in with an 18% strikeout rate over his 17 innings of some hybrid work. 3.18 ERA, 4.33 xFIP are perfectly fine. 24.2 degree average launch angle could get problematic around some of these home run bats. Just a 1.45% home run rate. He's allowed 39.2% hard hits, but has mostly missed barrels through that. There is a good probability that that changes overall. Tidwell does have a degree of talent. 5 innings last time out, 2 earned runs allowed, struck out just 3, walked 1. That was against Texas. That was his first fully, stretched out action in the show. Prior to that, he had made some relief appearances early in the season. That was all the way back in April. And then forgot to pull the minor league game log. Had worked 15 starts in the minors to a 4.37 ERA, struck out 78 over 72 innings, had allowed 8 home runs over that stretch. Up and down outings, peaked at 8 strikeouts early in the season over just 4 1/3 against Houston's affiliate, handful of 6 and 7 strikeout games. Had been on a little bit of a stretch of allowing a little bit of power prior to the promotion. And the Astros are just pulling a lot through the model. 3 guys above the magic number, including Jordan, who's closing in on Kyle Schwarber's doubling the magic number. He's at 35 on the year. Also chasing the overall league triple crown, 322, 435, 624. Utterly outrageous season for Jordan and entirely within reason for him. This is just who he is. He is very much this good. Jeremy Pena, 51-35, solid shortstop option, over 308 plate appearances. He's been very good again this year. 138 WRC plus. He has more than won me over the last 2 seasons. Isaac Paredes at 3,900, 2,900. We're always looking ballpark. I don't think this is a good one for him. Can't imagine it would be. Just looking at what that home run opportunity looks like. He's good at getting on base even when it's taken away from him, but very much lives and dies by what the left field corner looks like. Oh, this is actually a good park for him. Huh. So this year it rates out as a good park for him for a little bit of a home run expectation. I mean, it's below what Houston would be, but it's all right. Whereas in every one of his other seasons, it's been pretty bad. Not sure what's creating that difference. But anyway, I wouldn't be hunting for home run upside with Isaac here. He is pulling an 8.94 in the model. There is potential there, but I'm looking for him to set the table at worst, 345 on base. So he can be part of the run creation engine, a 117 WRC plus on the season. Nice and cheap at 39.29 across sites at the corners as well. Jose Altuve's turned it on a little bit over the last few weeks. 13 home runs on the board now, 243, 306, 395. Long way to go to get to quality and probably not going to have enough time left to get there. But Max Scherzer, by the way, 10th all-time in strikeouts as of this weekend. Not bad. Congrats to Max. Max, if you're watching, I know you're a big fan of the show. Congratulations, man. Especially impressive considering your death 2 or 3 years ago. Jose Altuve, over his last 130 plate appearances, 262, 308, 426, 5 home runs, scored 17 times, drove in 12, striking out just 16.9 against a 6.2% walk rate. That goes back to the beginning of July. If we cut that to since July 19th, 288, 325, 397, a 104 WRC plus, 2 of his home runs. So finding some more success than he was earlier in the season. Nothing crazy, but it's a nice uptick to see. Taylor Trammell, mix and match outfielder. Christian Walker, a lot of power there. 10.49 in the home run model, 22 on the season. Big time downturn about midway through the season. Lost everything that he had gained as far as the strikeout rate coming back down to years past numbers. It's up to 23.5% now. Limited in terms of the barrel rate, the hard hit rate, everything is cratered. It was a nice story while it lasted. Is still carrying a 216 ISO. Does still have a 117 WRC plus on the year though. So there is quality. And if you're going to the Astros, he's a cheap way to fill first base with some potential for power against the young pitcher here. Dalton Varsho on the Astros now. Mix and match outfielder across the board. A little bit of counting stat upside. Jainer Diaz is a good catcher who does have power. 8 home runs and 234 chances is okay. Very low strikeout, very low walk rate. So you're getting tons and tons of balls in play. He's just hit them more consistently well in years past compared to how he has so far this year. But he's seen a little bit of a uptick in the last month or so as well. And then Cam Smith, another contender for potential next year's Jordan Walker. This year, 15 homers, 10 steals, 220, 293, 388, but making fantastic premium contact under the surface. Needs to improve the strikeout to walk rate, but has clipped strikeout down year over year slightly. So some signs of growth there. A 300 weighted on base, but a nice 329 xWOBA to chase. So some definite potential under the surface and a very interesting low under the radar player. I didn't want to say under the radar right after under the surface, but there we are. Interesting DFS option at potentially lower ownership than a lot of his teammates from the bottom of the lineup, and a good way to wrap things around as well. Giants bats, sub-4 implied against Hayden Wesneski, who's a big part of the pitching conversation. Just a 16.7% strikeout rate in his 11 and 2/3 in 2 starts in his return to action. That's 4 strikeouts in both games, 2 walks in both games. Went 6 against the Blue Jays, allowed 2 earned runs on 4 hits. Went 5 and 2/3 against the Angels, allowed 3 earned runs on 7 hits. Has some talent. Last year, 32 innings in 6 starts. 22.1% strikeout against a 4.6% walk, 4.50 ERA, and a 3.81 xFIP. Year before that, in 67 and 2/3 of hybrid work, 23.7% strikeout rate, 10.9% swinging. So there is some potential for an uptick in Ks as long as he continues pitching in, deep into ball games. At the price against a super gettable Giants team in the pitcher-friendly ballpark, there's a lot to like about Hayden Wesneski's opportunity here. Even at 81 on FanDuel, there's a reasonable expectation of a quality start and some potential for strikeout upside. So I don't dislike him on either site, and I prefer him to the Giants lineup. If you're going Giants against, Bryce Eldridge at the top spot, 37.28. Nice and cheap for a guy with 11 home runs at 343 on base in his first 306 plate appearances in the show. He has consistently hit the ball very, very hard. Fair amount of strikeout in his game, but he also draws walk. Kid is just good, 115 WRC plus. Jung-Hoo Lee, good option for just hitting for average, getting on base, setting the table for the better players that follow. Willie Adames has major power upside, 19 home runs, but a totally inconsistent guy with 222, 281, and 413 slash line this year. He never really found that, click back in, get into form kind of uptick that we saw in the second half last year. Rafi Devers, 4,000, 3,200, still underpriced. 249, 321, 475, 24 home runs. Yeah, we're not getting back maybe to full-fledged Rafi Devers territory, but he's had solid stretches and he's still hitting for elite levels of power. 11% barrels, 51.3% hard hits, the 24 homers, 341 actual WOBA against just a 326X, but that's come well up over the last couple months as well. 117 WRC plus, 226 ISO. Still Rafi Devers in there. Oslevi Spasabe, 3,300, 2,500, 3 home runs in just 33 plate appearances so far. High-end prospect for this organization. It's a reasonable option. Oh, wait. Am I thinking of the right guy? No, Basabe's been here a minute. This is not high-end prospect for this organization. Excuse me. I'm thinking of somebody else. What's he done for me lately? Yeah, 14 homers, 7 stolen bases last year in AAA. This year, 5 and 12. Pretty moderate, okay slash lines, but below average WRC plus. Yeah, I take back what I said. I was thinking of somebody else with similar name. Not sure who. Who has a similar name to us? Levius Basabe. Somebody out there. The hell was I thinking of? It'll pop into my head sometime later in the evening. Anyway, Drew Gilbert, Grant McRae, Christian Koss, and Drew Kavanaugh going down lineup. You get a little bit of power, maybe out of Grant McRae, 8% barrels in a small sample, 43 plate appearances, has a home run on the board, but entirely lacking otherwise and similar in any kind of recorded history. 6.71 in the home run model. You'd just be looking to pick off one piece of premium contact against a pitcher who, thus far in a small sample, has not really allowed it. Astros bats, Wisniewski, Giants bats, and Tidwell's just there. And then we close things out with the Royals and the Dodgers. A sub-3 implied total for the Royals going up against Tarek Skubal, making his second start for his new organization. Just an unfair embarrassment of riches for the Dodgers. And, it's reasonable to say that it is unfair. Baseball, obviously, no salary cap. The Yankees could go out there and outspend the Dodgers if they want to. So could any of the high-end organizations in the league. And a lot of the teams that don't spend money, everybody in the league is owned by a billionaire. So any team could go out and spend what the Dodgers do any given year. But the Dodgers do get an advantage in that after they went broke, baseball changed for like 50 years the way that they were taxed. And they don't pay the same tax rate as everybody. So they get free money every year. Not exactly fair. I expect baseball does something about that at some point. Anyway, or we just get a cap in these negotiations, and we'll talk to you sometime in 2028 about baseball next. Anyway, Royals not looking great against Skubal. Dodgers looking pretty effective against Noah Cameron. But again, he's been on a great stretch. He is a talented pitcher, finding form lately. So it wouldn't stun me if Cameron had a good day at 6,900 on DraftKings. That's a great price for his talent. Good price to gamble and find out. 22% strikeout against 7.6% walks, 11.1% swinging strike rate on the season, 4.37 ERA, but a 3.98 xFIP, 4.08 SIERA. Limiting as far as power goes. He's difficult to hit home runs against. He allows a few barrels, and it is a fly ball trajectory, but he's good at limiting premium contact. He's good at keeping the ball in the yard. Last year, 3.24% home runs. This year, 2.66. There are things to like about Cameron at that DraftKings price. At 91 on FanDuel, there's no sane reason in the world to go there, other than he'll probably be low owned, and he is, again, ripped off a stretch of 8 innings of 1-run ball, 8 innings of shutout ball, 1 hitter against the Twins, 7 innings of shutout ball, 2 hitter against the Tigers in his last 3. Prior to that stretch, 12 earned runs in 12 innings in 2 starts. Royals bats against Skubal. Do we need to break down Skubal? 30% strikeouts against 4% walks, 16.2% swinging strikes, 2.81 ERA, 2.63 xFIP. Any rumors of him underperforming are completely exaggerated nonsense. Still the best pitcher in baseball. Well worth the pricing in any matchup, particularly against the scuffling Royals team. Carter Jensen at the top of the Royals, lefty against the best lefty in baseball, going to be problematic for him. Would be a piece if I'm going to this Royals team, but I see no real reason to go there. Bobby Witt, obviously their superstar, definitely a piece of the conversation. 13 home runs, 31 steals. You will get an opportunity to have a slightly underpriced and dramatically low-owned Bobby Witt Jr. if you go to him just as a one-off shortstop, but there are a lot of better shortstop spots for your money today. Good as Bobby Witt is, Tarek Skubal's better. Jack Caglianone, monster upside for power against mere mortals, 20 home runs and 426 plate appearances. Lefty against Tarek Skubal. I don't like his chances. Sal Perez at 33-28, scuffling his way through the year outside of those 16 home runs. A little bit of premium contact upside still lingering, but we're getting down toward the end of the road with Sal, unfortunately. Nick Lofton, Starling Marte, John Rave, Isaac Collins, Tyler Tolbert. Not exactly a list of world beaters. Tolbert's interesting because he is basically the Flash when he gets on base. 15 steals in 98 plate appearances, getting on at a 362 clip. Last year, he stole 21 bases in 57 plate appearances. That's insane. So he's speedy, has to get on base to pay it off, and he's facing Tarek Skubal. I don't like his chances. Dodgers bats against Cameron, definitely in play, 4.74 implied total. As decent as Cameron could be, the Dodgers are better. Shohei Ohtani at 65-41 speaks for himself, 26 home runs. Even in a diminished season, he's been utterly outstanding. 393 weighted on base, a 407 xWOBA, 150 WRC plus. Andy Pye has 5,200 cheap on FanDuel at 32. The Dodgers have been cheap the last week plus on FanDuel, by the way. Outside of Ohtani, those are all average player prices. There's nothing special or broken about any of those prices. You're getting a bargain on Pius, on Freddie, on Mookie, on Teoscar. Tons of upside on those players. That is the right price on Tommy Edman, but he plays 4 positions on the site, including 2 key ones at second and third base. 157 plate appearances of Tommy Edman doing Tommy Edman things. Completely miscast in a cleanup role. Should be leading off, or not ahead of Ohtani, obviously, but different kind of a player than a cleanup hitter. But from that spot, he could reset the table for guys like Mookie and Teoscar that follow, and you're clearing him after Freddie clears the bases. So it's a reasonable option, just a different way to think about that 4th spot in the lineup. Mookie at just 41 at 3,000. 13 home runs, low end slash line for Mookie bats, or for anybody really, but there's still upside there. There's still Mookie bets in there somewhere. 11.7% strikeouts, 7.3% walk, ton of balls in play, if nothing else out of Mookie. 326 xWOBA lurking under that 294 actual to show the underperformance this year. He's better than he's been, and he's way better than that. So happy to take him at cheap prices if I go to this Dodgers team. Teoscar for 37, 3,000 monster power upside. Just 11 home runs in 325 chances this season. It's been a little bit off in terms of the premium contact compared to years past, but any given slate, tremendous power from the right side, facing a lefty who, again, doesn't allow many home runs, but allows a lot of fly balls. And when they happen to be well struck, a guy like Teoscar could be the difference maker in terms of whether that gets in the seats or not. Enrique Hernandez, Miguel Rojas, Hunter Fiducia, just mix and match pieces if that's who's at the bottom of the lineup. Skubal, Dodgers, but Noah Cameron right on their heels. On DraftKings, it might be Cameron Dodgers. It's a fair argument to be made. And then Royals bats way down at the bottom of everything. Just to put Cameron back in perspective here on DraftKings, right? Right there. Doesn't project any differently than any of these guys down through the bottom of the board. It is a bad spot, but he's a better pitcher than basically everybody through here, with apologies to Michael Soroka in a short start and the corpse of Freddie Peralta. He's probably not as good as most of that group, but he's as good probably as Rogers, Elder, Dobbins. If you're considering Hunter Dobbins against the Phils for 68, there's every reason in the world to consider Noah Cameron against the Dodgers. It's essentially the same kind of a spot, and Cameron's the better upside pitcher. Everybody up through here is more expensive. Generally, the same or not as good in not great matchups outside of maybe Wisniewski against the Giants. Christian Scott, good as he's been for strikeout upside, has been walking too many, and the Braves are pulling a mid-4s implied total against him. He's also closing in on 1,000 more than Noah Cameron. 500 more. Once you get into this territory, you're having a different conversation. Those are your upside pitchers of the day. But I think it's justifiable to consider Cameron in that mix. And again, I think a ton of your SP2 ownership is going to go through those 2 spots, Wisniewski and Christian Scott, 71 and 74. So if you're looking to just get a little bit cheaper, either of these 2 guys, Again, Gabby Hughes at 65 against the Diamondbacks, playable. Freddie at 67, playable. It's an ugly bargain bin, but there's multiple guys who are ugly playable, if that makes sense. So good luck figuring that out. On FanDuel, you just need to live in like this territory, and it's mostly in like this territory, and you don't really have to worry about any of that garbage at the bottom of the slate. 6:01, we crossed the 6 o'clock threshold. 2 hours and change into the show and our return to action. Appreciate all you guys hanging out today. Any questions, hop into the Discord. Free Discord linked in the description for this video. Felt like I was slow through a lot of the discussion today. A little bit off my game today, but I think we covered a lot of ground. Fair to say. Make sure you come back after the show ends in just another minute. Leave a comment on the video. Make your home run pick of the day, your pitcher pick of the day. Different contest, same prize. Win yourself a free month of rotoscouts content. Pitcher pick of the day has to be quality start. 6 innings of 3 earned runs or fewer, plus 8 or more strikeouts. You cannot pick Tarek Skubal. He's off the board. Everybody else is available for you. Got to use the same YouTube handle every day. First to 5 correct picks wins. It's a multi-day contest. We'll have the scores up for you. I think at most somebody has one, but I don't think anybody's gotten one yet. And it's only been running for like 2 days. So yeah, go win yourself a free month. Also, check out the free first week on a weekly. Promo code Try Me, all one word, capital T, capital M. Get behind the paywall tonight. Check things out. Use the projections for free for a week before you commit to anything at all. Good luck out there tonight, gang. Let me get the site updated in the next few minutes for you. Somebody go win something out there. Share those results when you do. I'd love to see you guys winning. You know that. At rotoscouts on Twitter or in the Discord, which is linked again in the description below this video. We'll be back tomorrow and all week long for a lot more action, guys. See ya.